Oh, there's a startup
Oh.
60 seconds. Or
Oh, startup 60 seconds.
You're watching the Tesla Life and My Tesla Weekend with your hosts, Mark Coughlin and Brian.
hello,
Patrick Wozniak.
everybody, and welcome to the Tesla Life number. I think we're at 316 today.
That's correct.
But let's start off with the big news. Of course, we have a new host with us, and Brian from My Tesla Weekend joins us. How are you today, Brian?
Oh man, I'm doing good. I am so excited to have you guys on the simulcast going out
Exactly.
live on the two best channels on YouTube. Let's not lie. Let's not kid each other. We know what we're doing here. This is very exciting stuff. And yeah, this is great. I'm excited because I don't make big predictions on the financials. So as a result, I get to just enjoy it. I pop a little popcorn, sit back, and not stress out.
Exactly. That's the way to do it, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Also joining
Yeah.
us as per regular, Mr. Kacey Green joins us from some undisclosed location in South Carolina. How are you today, sir?
Well, pretty well. I've got a new entry into Man Talks About Plugs later in the show. Or maybe real next.
Very good.
So while we're waiting for the financials to drop, which we expect to be in about 30 minutes, 33 minutes, maybe 35 minutes, we're going to, one of the things we were going to start with was some of those brilliant questions from Say Technologies. Because
I'm
shareholders
gonna pull that
love
up
to
in a minute.
ask not the dumbest questions, oh no, but the smartest. And if you think these questions are terrible, you should see what questions are posted for other publicly traded companies where investors are not as engaged. They are, some of them, oh, I don't know how these people, I assume they just have rakes laid out in front of them to stomp on all day.
And
They've
then you
been
get to hear the
beating
ones
themselves
asked by the
silly. Is that
professional
what you're
analysts.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
they just
how all
wander
of it
around the
works.
office whacking themselves in the head with these rakes.
That's right.
Like a cartoon. Ding, 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 ding,
In
ding.
the chat on both sides, let us know, how do we sound? Are we loud enough? Are we too quiet? Should we just mute all three of us and just be pretty?
No, not that. Come on.
Not that? No? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
All right,
it's
so
it
first-
is of course earnings day. We've got those going to be released shortly. Any questions out there, please let us know in either of the chats. It's a live stream on both channels, both My Tesla Weekend and the Tesla Life. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, I don't know what you're waiting for. You may as well subscribe to both right now. Just get it out of the way. Get it out of the way early.
Yeah, and smack some thumbs up, or if you're on my channel, I also welcome thumbs down. I get it. Believe me, I get it.
You are an honest guy, Brian. You'll take the thumbs up or the thumbs down. It's just, just making sure someone clicks something.
The joke is,
So YouTube, you're watching.
engagement counts the same either way, so just engage, man. The thumbs are ornamental as long as you use one of them. Just like my thumbs.
I do wonder though if everyone's people are just like hate watching you. I can't believe this guy. The nerve.
Yeah, I've got one. He's not in the chat yet, but I do have one who's always giving me a hard time.
Oh,
But he
my
knows
goodness.
how to thread the needle to not get hidden from the channel or banned or anything.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
as long as you don't attack other people and keep it remotely honest, I'm fine.
Okay. All right.
All right, I'll talk about plugs.
Incidentally, William in the chat said Judith and Ken Rake Stomper live right down the street. As it happens, what are the odds? So that's great. That's
What
really
are the
cool. Low.
Everyone in that neighborhood walks around with a little bit in the daze, I guess.
Yeah.
Their name.
Needless to say, they're very active in the HOA, so that's pretty good.
Oh, really? I would think.
Now, for those
so
who don't know, Brian, where are you located? If you don't
I'm
mind,
in the Pacific
generally
Northwest.
telling us.
Yeah, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, closer to Portland than Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And of course,
Another-
shout out to Patrick, who's in your neck of the woods and usually joins us. But Patrick's on vacation today, so
Yeah.
he won't be around until next week. So
I'll wait.
we say hello to Patrick.
I'll just continue streaming until he shows up.
Very good. Very good. Oh, man. So no questions yet on our end.
Am I?
Nothing.
You're a little frozen, Kacey, but it was great because the frozen face happened to be excellent.
Oh, okay.
So, can we pull up those Say Technology questions while we're waiting?
I wanted to
for
talk about plugs real quick, though. Get it out of the way.
Go for it.
So, the other big news today, aside from the event that's about to kick off here, is that our friends in Japan at Nissan have joined the Supercharger coalition. So not only are they going to have the NACS plug native on the vehicle by 2025, you get to some articles said you can pay for it. The press release said available. We'll see. In 2024, you can get an adapter for the Nissan Ariya and any future Nissan EVs. Unfortunately, if you have a Nissan Leaf of any vintage, you are not included in the NACS coalition. I'm sorry. There will be no adapters for you at the moment. Some folks were like, hey, what about us? And Nissan tweeted, we have no information to disclose at this time regarding CHAdeMO-equipped vehicles. Sorry. Which means no.
No.
But maybe. But no.
Maybe. No. So MPAT wanted to know, or Gary wanted to know, who are these guys and what do they do? This is the Tesla Life. They've got a podcast, 300 plus episodes, and they don't get enough love. So today they do. They've got... They don't. When I go to the chat, it's mostly me and some tumbleweeds, but they're gracious enough to read my comments, and I enjoy their show. So I figured, let's get a little more love to the smaller channels, see if we can have some interesting conversations. And these guys know what they're doing, which is why the real reason I wanted them on. And as long as they're here, I can do less work, so that's great.
Bonus.
This isn't like the April Fool's thing I did where for 3 hours of broadcast for 6-7 hours of my life, I just did the same show over and over like it was Groundhog Day.
Oh, my goodness.
That was fun. Oh.
Well, here come the questions.
Let's go. Let's hear them.
Oh, Kacey, you're kind of chopping up with the audio.
Chopping up.
Oh,
Robo Kacey.
Yeah, Robo Kacey. It's
I'll read it out. Has any automaker approached Tesla to license fuzzed? And I'm going to say the answer is probably not in any meaningful way. And I don't expect a material answer to this. I think that any answer we hear would be very couched. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough swallow for other automakers to get on board the FSD because there's going to be a stiff price tag to this. We've seen what Tesla has put into this so far, resource-wise, and it's tremendous. In fact, it's almost the entire programming of the company has been focused on FSD now for a few years. So the enormity that they're going to be charging another company just to come in and use the software, as well as having the proper back end to install the software on those new vehicles, it's going to be a big pill to swallow for any other auto manufacturer. And I frankly don't see it happening anytime soon.
Kacey, your thoughts?
Yeah. What I think eventually it will happen. I don't, like you said, I don't think it'll be anytime soon because first it's got to be out of beta because nobody in the regular world wants to pay for betas except for us. The other part of it is that these other automakers, they are already used to just buying boxes and putting them in their cars. This is just yet another box with a subscription fee.
I would agree. I think, there's, because it's not complete. I could see. Yeah, I just think it's too early to have meaningful discussions on the topic.
If when it is ready, what you'll see is, assuming anybody else is ready, you'll see them do a feature comparison and a price comparison, and then any sort of like value adds that they get to like put their name on it or something weird, and then at that point, that will be what they decide on.
What is the status of the 4680 cell? How far are you from the specs you laid out on Battery Day? And when do you expect to achieve what you laid out on Battery Day? Mark, why don't you go first?
I think that Tesla has been delayed by the 4680 rollout. I think they've experienced some issues that, of course, they're not addressing publicly, but you can tell that those issues exist because of the timelines that have been missed with certain vehicle rollouts. You can tell that the Model Y initially was supposed to have the 4680 rollout from the beginning. They had to pivot quickly and start installing 2170s in its place in order to get those lines running, because obviously there was an issue. What it is, was it energy density, was it speed of production? We don't know what those are, but we can safely say that they've had some issues with the scaling up. And I'm not surprised. This is a brand new type of battery. It's a brand new procedure in making the battery. They're cutting out a number of steps, trying to save money on all these different areas. So it's not surprising that they've had some issues trying to scale it up to the size of the battery plant that they need, or plants that they need, in order to fulfill the orders for all these cars, the millions and millions and millions of batteries. So it's something that is going to take a little bit more time, but there have been incremental changes and updates and successes because they've started to roll them out into certain vehicles. And we've seen a particular line, for example, for the standard range Model Y in Texas. So they're heading in the right direction. It's just going to take them a little more time to get this all nailed down.
I agree completely. I would add to that. I expected when they said, "Oh, we've made our millionth battery at Cato Road." When that announcement came out, I was shocked. I expected that to have happened months earlier. It was a alarming sign to me, and I was deeply concerned with what that meant for the ramp overall. Well, 1 million cells, that's great. Guys, there's like 5,000 in a car. This is what, 2,000 cars worth. This is not the correct number. This is not enough. And so, yeah, we immediately saw them build the 2170 variant. Panasonic was supposed to start shipping 4680s any day, but they announced we're stepping back from that. It's going to take a little longer. We're instead going to increase our 2170 production. And yeah, I don't know what they're going to say. The specs are probably fine, but the production, I don't know, man. Kacey, what are you thinking?
Well, we also saw that Panasonic was doing another 2170 plant for non-Tesla customers nearby Giga 1 as well. I'm wondering with the yields that we saw, where like Monroe and several others are complaining that the capacity of the standard range structural pack was not what they expected from the 4680. I'm wondering if they were doing binning, where if it was acceptable but not what they were touting at Battery Day, then it went downstairs to go in the Model Y, and if it was of exceptional quality, it went upstairs in the attic to wait on the Cybertruck packs.
I'm inclined.
There were a number of them.
I'm inclined to doubt it because I think the binning would for those who don't know, binning is they test it. If it comes out at 90%, they put all the 90% together. They put all the 95s, 98s together so that they all have as close to matching voltage as possible. I think anything other than a perfect or very close to perfect battery would end up too wide of a spectrum for them to effectively have the right number of bins to put them in. So I think it's
Okay,
all or
recycled,
nothing
you're
with
thinking?
those, and that
Yeah.
they're being recycled. That's my take.
Possible.
Can you talk
Well,
more?
and
Oh yeah, go ahead.
the other issue of with binning is the ability to store the binning. We're talking tens of millions of batteries over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand Giga Texas is huge and is mainly empty at this point, but I would sure the army of drones that constantly hover around that plant would have noticed the bins right up to the windows in certain places.
Right,
Well,
and they would have to
that's
probably have to
oh,
be on the ground floor due to weight, because you
True.
can
Yeah.
only go. I don't remember 4 packs high or some. We could see packs in the windows on the second floor, and they only went to about 6 feet high, and I assume that's a weight consideration more than anything
It could
else.
be. But during the summer, we did see a couple of packs labeled, or not necessarily packs, but a couple of groups of cells
Crates.
labeled Cybertruck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if we've seen them again.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's also the question of what is Cato doing? Maybe that's where they're hiding the other set of cells.
Well, we know there was also a facility they rented, maybe 50 miles, 100 miles to the east. Maybe that's a warehouse full of batteries. I don't know. And I don't think they will tell us. I hope we
No.
get something more than incredibly vague guidance,
Yes.
but we shall see. Can you talk more to the upcoming Tesla energy products and how your thinking has evolved on the revenue model? Given Tesla's AI capabilities, how do you see long-term mix between hardware margin and recurring software margin like AutoBidder? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Casey.
This would be interesting. He'll definitely want to talk about the energy products because I'm surprised that's also coming from institutional investors. They usually don't seem to count energy for anything. And then the AI, I think he might talk on it a little bit, or he might not, given the new XAI that came out at the end of the week last week, or beginning of the week this
Sure.
week. It all blends together. And AutoBidder, I think he might have a lot to say about there, because when we look at some of the Texas Energy customers, some of them reported last week during the heat wave they were getting, well, probably this week too, but last week they said it, they were getting hundreds of dollars for their power bill in their credits for helping
Yeah.
their neighbors out with the AC load.
They were getting dollars per kilowatt hour
Yes,
or per
hundreds
yeah, I mean,
a day.
It was massive. They. Let's see. I think, boy, the auto bidder. I could see them taking a sliver on that if it's good, which from what we've seen, is good. Revenue isn't. I asked Matt Smith, formerly of Good Soil Investments, about when will revenue be counted, and at the time it hadn't shown up in any of the financials. It does now, and he had said, once it gets big enough. Well, we've got Lathrop cranking out megapacks. They're $2.5 million a pop. It's showing up. When will the analysts start modeling for it? I don't know. Maybe, hopefully later. That way you folks like us can load up a little more before this starts getting realized. So, yeah, it's unavoidable. Over the short term, what moves the stock is your feelings. And over the long term, what moves the stock is fundamentals. And I've had companies that I criticized, like Lucid or Nikola, where people would then come back a week later and go, aha, but the stock went up. Right, that's the short term. Long term, we need to look at execution, and, there could be hype for things like Tesla Energy, but if the revenue doesn't materialize, it's meaningless.
I think they're going to be light on talk on this during the earnings call because there's a backlog for these units to be sold. They're already pre-sold. In fact, there's a 2-year waiting list currently. So there's not a lot to talk about except that these items are wanted vastly by the marketplace. We're trying to scale up and produce more of them. We're building new places to manufacture them and teams to install them and deliver them. But at this point, I think they're playing the battery game where they don't have enough and they don't have the throughput to make this a business that's going to be a shining star to the stock market. It's just not enough going on in it. They've got the basics of it. They just got to scale up. And of course, that has all to do with batteries, and we roll right back to the 4680s and how they're behind. So this is another symptom of that. Maybe the 4680s would never be used in these packs. Maybe they will in the future. But certainly if the 4680s were rolled out already and to a higher capacity, there would be more batteries to go around to all the different aspects of Tesla, including the power packs.
So I'm going to push back on that because the LFPs are what they're using in stationary storage already. And those are better because they have a longer, they can handle more cycle life. And you can go 0 to 100 without damage instead of effectively knocking 20 to 40% off your ideal capacity. And cheaper. The only downside they have is volumetric density, not as critical in a stationary application. And the beauty with LFP is Chinese manufacturers have been very good at building those for a very long time now. So I think those will, those will scale. And I'm getting comments here saying that Tesla has applied for a utility license in the UK and that they're already approved in Germany. And we already know that they're approved in Texas. The Tesla is now competing with their own customers to get these mega packs. And if I'm confident I can make more money by keeping it than selling it, I'm going to keep it. Right. But what that really means is they're going to build more mega pack factories all over the globe.
Yes. Also, remember 4680 is just a CAN. So there's nothing stopping them from making an LFP 4680 other than the facilities. Like if they don't have enough places to make both chemistries, they're going to make whatever's most profitable.
Yes. I think they will continue making, they'll focus all their energy on the 4680 because there is secret sauce that they don't want to give to an outside party to develop. So they would, but I could be wrong on that. And yes, they could just tell whoever. I mean, it really doesn't matter what the form factor is. If the battery works, it works. Throw it in a cabinet and away we go. Yeah. So, yeah. Can you talk more to the upcoming? Oh, right.
Oh, I'm still off the screen.
Nope, you're right.
Oh, okay. Right.
Can you quantify the benefits to cost of goods sold per unit from an IRA battery manufacturing incentives and a raw material declines year to date? Is this even a question?
That's going to depend on the customer, the load. Like if you're putting it into Tesla Energy, it's going to have a different IRA result than it will if you put it into a Model 3 base or a Model X Plaid.
Well, they also get the $35 per kilowatt hour for battery manufacturing.
But, yeah, that too.
But, I mean, I would assume these are already priced in. Just look at the bottom line. I think we'll get that sorted. I don't think this deserves an answer. Do you?
Not really. Is that an institutional? I bet it's an institutional. Yep.
There you go. John Bay wanted to know, can you stack megapacks? I know it's a pile inside, but most all installs I've seen are one layer. The vents are on the top. The vents are on there's fans. So if you've ever tried stacking things that were not meant to be stacked, you'll know that kills them. So
also the fire department training is only on one level,
that's actually a very good point. I was going to say there's no reason you couldn't move the vents to the sides, but you'll notice that power facilities have a very specific geometry, and I assume it's all done for a reason. So I don't think so, but they don't have to be in the highest value locations necessarily. They can be way out behind your facility, and it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing you might see is like a kind of like an open air warehouse, like some of the data centers that are naturally cooled, where they've got proper floors with the room and facilities for fire departments, but also then they just truck in the containers and then plug them in to the facility that way.
Oh, that's interesting. Failtrain says, analysts are lazy AF. Can you do this easy math for me, please? Because I don't know how.
How many times have we seen ridiculous questions come in from the different analysts out there? Like it's, or the real killer is watching the question come in over and over and over during the same
literally
poll, just slightly worded differently.
Right. Did you guys think of maybe piling through them first and maybe just add your votes to whatever? Roger pointed out that British Lithium announced mining in Cornwall 3 weeks ago, and Tata has announced a battery factory sufficient for 500,000 cars a year for Jaguar and Land Rover. And I don't know if Cornwall is the one I'm thinking of, but at Fully Charged in Farnborough, I saw a group there showing, they had a beautiful animation showing that there are lithium deposits in England that they were hoping to explore. So maybe that's the one. Lithium is everywhere. It's everywhere. The only reason we get it from places like Chile is because it's so much more affordable. And they've got that delicious lithium salt that's so easy to extract rather than cracking it out of rocks. So,
Yep.
uh-huh.
There's a lot of
some
movement.
underground cave and pumping it back out.
Yeah.
We've discussed many times. There's a lot of movement in different mineral deposits that are being signed up because of the IRA in North America. There's because of the wanting to have the made in North America stamp on it so that rebate would be available to the purchaser. There's a ton of companies. In fact, just recently here in Ontario, Southern Ontario, St. Thomas, Ontario, VW has signed a deal with the government where they're going to put in a multi-billion-dollar plant for batteries. And Stellantis has signed a deal in Windsor, Ontario, another multi-billion-dollar plant for batteries. So these are all places that are getting their minerals and components from North America, assembling them in North America to make a vehicle that can be sold in North America.
Yeah. And it's exciting to see the way the IRA has played out in that regard. But it has absolutely incentivized battery production, mining, a lot of things that we would be wise to consider national security interest, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, Failtrains points out that we do have lithium brines here in California. And that would be like the Salton Sea, for example, has quite a bit. So that's, that's great. Have you considered allowing FSD transferability? No.
That question's been answered a few times, hasn't it? In different ways.
This is one of those situations where Elon is just like in his own little head and doesn't understand that normal people think differently than he does. Like waypoints. Why did it take my car, my second Tesla, 4 years to get waypoints when my 2008 Honda Civic Hybrid had it?
Yeah.
Because Elon didn't think it was useful.
Because, Kacey, you didn't need it.
That's what he tells me.
I assume that they've run the money math and determined that early adopters will keep buying it at a rate that's higher than new buyers would. Now, what I think would be great is say, look, here's the deal. Subscription is currently $200. It's going to go up in the future. If you subscribe now, it'll always be $200 for you for as long as you're subscribed.
That would be fair. Yeah.
And you could book that money immediately, and you would pay it. There are people who would buy it saying, "Oh, it's coming any day," and here we are, years later, like the folks who couldn't figure out how to cancel their AOL accounts. So that would be, but I think I'm surprised. What I suggested they could do is when instead of giving incentives on the S and X, say, how about this? If you have FSD on any Tesla product today, now through the end of the month, buy a new S or X, we'll let you transfer it. And that would have been a huge, there are a lot of people who would pull the trigger on a new S or X who wouldn't otherwise. And that's essentially a $15,000 incentive to them.
Yeah.
And
instead, we got a 3-year free supercharging when we've got unlimited already.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And charging is, especially when you're charging at home, it's so cheap anyway. Yeah. And it's better for your battery to charge at home because it charges more slowly.
Yeah.
When will you get more information about Cybertruck orders, delivery, pricing, and specs? Do you think they're going to answer this one
this time around?
You think?
I think they might say wait till the next event.
We're getting closer to an answer to those, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen during an earnings call. So
Right. Like
I think it's another free event for them, right? It's another free round of publicity. So why would they circumvent that by announcing it today? There may be a tease here and there, but I think that today is not going to be the day you're going to get the goods on that question.
Right. Product announcements, have seldom been done during earnings calls. One exception was in Q4 of, I don't know, 19 or 2020. They mentioned the Plaid or the new S or something like that. But that is the exception. That is the one of the last 10 quarters they've done it. And before that, I don't remember the last time. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't even of course say there's an event coming up prior to last week's news. But now he might say, hey, wait, more news to come, or an event's going to be happening soon, or something to that effect.
Well, John,
I don't think they're going to answer this directly.
Maybe we'll get an event notification. Maybe they'll say, you know what? End of September, look for it.
Something like that, yeah. That
sounds more likely. John Bay's got a brilliant idea. Center driver's seat in your Tesla vehicle to eliminate left and right-hand drive builds. Genius.
Just like the truck.
I think they're going to announce that they're getting rid of the rear seat because we found that most people don't use it.
I can see him pulling that, even if.
If these motors can get you up to 60 in a matter of seconds, they can get you to 0. The best brakes are no brakes.
You know what, Brian?
And then just go rear brakes only or something like that, just for emergencies.
Brian, when the removal of the lumbar on the passenger seat went away because of non-use, that day I decided that I was going to use the lumbar every day I get into the vehicle and move it a little bit, just for fun.
I've seen people on Twitter suggesting the same. It's your reminder. Please use this so we don't lose it
on the driver's side. Exactly.
Critics of gigacasting contend the process makes vehicles harder and more costly to repair, pushing the cost onto the consumer. Can you share some details about initial repair experience with gigacasted vehicles? First of all, do you buy the premise?
I think that there is some sort of possibility that if the damage went deep enough into the gigacasting, okay, but there are crushable items before you get to the gigacasting, and I'm sure that's where the energy is supposed to be absorbed by. If you get deep into the gigacasting where it damages that, there are probably other things that are going to be thrown out of line as well and probably not repairable. So I got to believe that they've looked at the gigacastings and said, we've built some outer structure so that if we get hit from different sides, there is enough to prevent it from damaging it at a normal crash. If it's something extraordinary and it gets and cracks the gigacasting or it bends it for whatever reason, then it's a no-go and that vehicle will be nerfed.
I would, Elon, there are crushable elements in the gigacasting.
There are. When I was at Monroe and Associates, I asked about the difference between the 2 casting rear end and the single casting rear end. And what Corey showed me, he didn't tell me, he walked me over and showed me, is that the initial, it's not 2 pieces down to 1, it's like 20 pieces down to 1, because the crush can is now integrated. But the crush can could be sawed off and welded back on. You can weld it.
And that's what Elon keeps saying to these people when they
ask. To me, the final say on this is insurance rates. If you look at a comparable BMW or Mercedes, both in the 3 lines, you'll find that the crush cans are not an issue. That the insurance rates are going to be roughly the same for comparable vehicle. Well, I had a Prius and my rates went up. Those are not comparable vehicles. You have to compare samesies, and that suggests to me that the likelihood of it being totaled and the likelihood of higher repair costs is negligible.
Right. And then once you get past the crush cans and get into the actual gigacast, there's 2 ways you can look at it. One, if it does get into the gigacast, you likely totaled the car. 2, if it does get into gigacast, aside from all the labor and paint, they can actually order a new gigacast and bolt that in if they ever felt like it. Bolt it in, put new sheet metal on it, and you're good to go.
That's true.
Better than a regular car.
That's true. How many Optimus bots have you made, and when will they be able to start performing useful tasks?
When we're in the video, that many.
I'm sure they're wandering around the factory right now.
There are people who believe that.
There's an issue,
one in the
of
corner
course.
moving stuff from boxes.
There's an issue with the Optimus bots is that they're under development. They're live under development. So they're putting in new parts and new procedures all the time to try to get the Optimus bot to where they feel it will be useful to running tasks. How long will that take before it starts producing a task that is going to be filmed and shared with the public? Probably a little bit while longer. Like I could see that we're not going to see this thing be able to perform anything on its own for another year. Because they may be aiming at one task, and maybe that's what they'll do to highlight it, and of course create some free PR and push the name out even further. But there is a problem that they're building this from scratch, and they went to buy parts off the shelf, and they realized that we need to build our own parts if we want it to react in the way that we want it to react. Therefore, it's going to be a longer development cycle.
Yep.
Yes. Agreed all around.
Yeah, we've seen them watering plants and unloading a crates, but like you said, they're under active development, and just because they did it once or twice doesn't mean that that's their job now. I still contend that like if they have whatever beta level that they're at, those ones that they have at the roaming shows like they had in England and the one in New York, if they were like the same level of functionality, it'd be awesome to put them in showroom mode, and then just as they add stuff, just like turn it on. All of a sudden, start walking around the showroom. But that's pie in the sky stuff for real, though.
Right.
And a quick hello to Anders, who's joining us from Europe today, where it's 21:48, just a few minutes ago. So hello, Anders.
Nice. So we are just after 1 o'clock. Any minute now, I expect my my chat to light up, telling me it's time. How did intake trend relative to production level? Okay, so this person had a stroke halfway through typing it. What they require is help. How does Tesla decide when it's appropriate to reduce prices or add other sales incentives to increase demand? Well, we know the answer. They've already told us that answer, haven't they?
Week to week, is it?
Yeah,
It's hotel pricing.
It's it's data that comes in that day. Is basically what it is. They're constantly tracking the sales across the board. They probably have the most advanced system to actually track sales and orders that anybody has, and they're able to change pricing at the drop of a hat.
They definitely do.
Happens overnight.
They definitely do. When Legacy sells to a dealer, they count it as sold, and that's it. That's the end of the information stream. They don't track necessarily how long it sits or what the actual
Legacy.
price is.
They get a little more than that, but they don't really get it real time. Like at the end of the day or end of the week, depending on the stores, they'll get it. But it's not going to be like if Tesla sells you a Model 3 right now and you pick it up, they know right away.
And they know what you paid. Where the dealers, I don't know, really. Do the dealers tell the manufacturers what everyone paid?
To an extent, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. With the emphasis on price cuts to drive volume eating into automotive gross margin, debatable. Can investors expect to see automotive gross margin stabilize or even rise due to efficiencies outpacing the cuts? And if so, when? Buddy, I think we're going to know this when the numbers drop, right?
Yeah, that's when you know.
Again, you got to have a good premise before you make everyone dumber.
Yeah.
It has recently been mentioned that FSD will leave beta upon the release of V12. Can the team expand on what a beta-less version of FSD would look like, and at what point would they take on liability? So if it's level 4 or 5, they're taking on responsibility, I assume, right?
That's what
the lack of interaction from a driver, they have to take on that responsibility. So you're right. And level 4 is the cutoff point.
Apparently, earnings are out.
And would that be through Tesla Insurance, or would that be through another? Yep, there's the downloads available. Let's pull this up and look at it.
So, and I would just add to that, a beta-less version would be, a self-driving car that you can, at level 4 or 5. I mean, all right, we got some highlights. 9.6% operating margin.
Wow.
Okay. I was not expecting that number. Operating cash flow of $3 billion. Free cash flow of one. See, the free cash flow is remaining strong. Our operating margin remained healthy at approximately 10%. Is that healthy? That sounds a
Well,
little low
it's
to me.
it sounds like it's shrinking.
Oh, funny. Point. So it's 91 pennies non-GAAP. I had 89 pennies non-GAAP. That might make me the closest, but my methodology is very weak. I said on Twitter that I would share my method. And my method was I took the approach that most channels take when estimating production. See, I go all out estimating production, and everyone else just plays the over-under game. They look at the pack and go over-under. So I looked at the highest credible estimate, and I went a penny over it, and that got me within 2 pennies. So that's how I cheated. That's how I cheated and got the right answer. But I'll take it because, again, earnings, not my forte. So yeah, 91 cents non-GAAP. That's great. Focused on cost reduction, new product development. Great. So let's go down the next page there, Kacey, and look at the financial summary. Automotive revenues. Okay, up from Q1. James Stevenson was right. And way up year over year. Energy generation and storage. Look at that. Down from last quarter. Surprises me a little. Of course it's up from last year. That's no surprise. Services and other revenue. Okay. Total gross profit. Looking good. The gross profit held steady. Even a couple dollars more. Yeah. I'm happy with all this. How about you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking good. Again, Tesla has been living in the blue sky for quite some time. It's getting better and better. And of course, we've got these factories that are being constrained currently. As they start to ramp up and go even further, these numbers are going to blossom even further. So I don't see an issue with what Tesla's reporting here or in the past number of quarters, because it's something that's just growing, and it's just based on the physical stature of the assets that Tesla has. We know that they're going to continue to rise and rise quickly.
Okay, let's go down the next page. And by the way, real quick before we leave, free cash or cash on hand right at the bottom of the right there, 23 billion cash on hand. God, they're growing so quickly, and the cash keeps piling up. All right.
Yeah, they can't spend it fast enough.
I can help. I've been offering for years. Yeah, 47% year over year. That's what we like to see. Revenue was impacted by growth in vehicle deliveries, growth in other parts of the business, and negatively impacted by reduced average selling price and negative financial foreign exchange impact of $500 million smackaroo bobs.
Wow.
That is a lot of Forex loss. Operating income decreased slightly year over year, resulting in a 9.6% operating margin. Okay. All happy with that. Free cash flow of $1 billion. Not too bad. Partially offset by other financing activities, including debt repayments. And they have virtually no debt.
No, they've worked on that and have reduced their debts dramatically. In fact, as you mentioned, there's probably next to nothing at this point.
Yes. Yeah. Let's go ahead and scroll down, I think. Anything you wanted to address there?
There's profit and growth in energy business as well as other services. I think that there will be a focus on non-cars today.
And then these numbers we've seen; those are, well,
Now they're somewhat finalized.
more finalized.
They wanted to give us.
Well, 479,700 is what we saw before.
That's true.
Well, that
But
was
they always
production.
say when they put those first numbers out, like they could change by the time we announce for real.
Yeah, they do a very good job of getting them out very quickly. Tesla locations, 68 new locations this quarter. Mobile service fleet, an extra 80, 78, 79. Whatever. Let's see here, charging stations. Good. You like to see that grow by 5% this quarter alone. Supercharger connectors, yeah. And the beauty is, Tesla doesn't build 4 stalls. They build, 12, 16, 32s. Apparently, they're only doing them in increments of 4 now because of the way the...
Yeah, because they're prefabs.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, vehicle capacity. Shanghai, greater than 750. Yes, we know. Yes, we know. Berlin is saying 375, which is great because at 5,000 a week, that was only 250,000. This means that lines 2 and 3 are beginning to ramp. That's good. Texas, greater than 250. We know we hit 5,000 a week in February or March?
Yep, early in the year.
Mm-hmm. Tesla Semi.
This seems
Cybertruck.
interesting.
Yeah, it's still tooling. In Shanghai, they didn't count the first 1,000 cars that they made, 500 cars, whatever it was, the ones they made in December of 19, even though some of them were essentially delivered to employees, they all hit in Q1. So any number of and also it doesn't even list a number for Semi. And I know from my guy at Nevada that they were making about 1 a day, and Wall Street estimated 89. So I assume they also have a source inside Giga Nevada.
Well, isn't it the threshold before they even have to say anything, or they normally do say anything? So it hasn't hit that yet.
I believe they're allowed to say, but I don't think they're obligated unless it's material. And 90 semis doesn't strike me as sufficiently material to mandate disclosure.
Yeah, it's pocket change.
Well, just like the 500 Model 3s that were made in Shanghai were not listed until they were
or at least one Cybertruck.
And I think the reason they held off on the finalization of those cars in Shanghai was because once you enter production, you have to start amortizing the cost of the factory. CapEx was actually down 10 million quarter over quarter, I'm told. They're shockingly efficient. Yeah. All right. And there's the US, Europe, and Canada numbers. Great. Core technologies. Cumulative miles driven with fuzz debata. That's not surprising to me.
No.
That big spike there is when they opened it to everyone, isn't it?
Right. Without the safety score.
Yeah. Battery, powertrain. Okay. We are now testing Cybertruck vehicles around the world for final certification and validation. This might be the most unique vehicle product in decades. Might?
Yep.
Master of understatement.
It is definitely.
Yeah. Very exciting. Taking a step towards faster and cheaper neural training with the start of production of our Dojo training computer. Okay. Yeah, and the forward-looking chart there in the bottom corner, projections are easy.
It's making them happen
by the end of the year.
I can show you a chart. What do you want it to say?
You can make many charts. Yes.
Yeah. This is how much my channel will grow over time, and how much my children will love me. All right. Let's scroll down to the next one there. Let's see page 9. Energy storage. I'm surprised that it is down for the quarter. That would not have been my projection had I made one. Interesting. Solar deployments, flat. Services and other business, like supercharging, including Ford, GM, Mercedes, Nissan, Polestar, Rivian, Volvo, and Electrify America have announced adoption, and more since.
Yeah, you can't print them fast enough before another one comes on board.
No.
They took the time to put Nissan in there.
Let's see. As well as faster growth of our charging network through a larger addressable fleet. So that is what we need to hear. There are a lot of people who are concerned about it, and there are a lot of people who live in places where public charging is their only option. So we will need to accommodate them as well.
A lot of people don't understand the rollout of this, though. We keep hearing a number of 12,000 superchargers access for GM, for Ford, for others. And of course, that is basically less than half of what is out there. So these chargers are going to be ones that are most likely between cities, likely to be underutilized. And the data that Tesla collects is going to allow them to select them strategically, not putting the ability for someone to charge a Bolt, for example, at a supercharger that's always busy. If there is a supercharger that has to be used, I think you're going to see things like what's happening in Quartzsite, where they have Arizona, where they have added another 88 superchargers a block away. So that type of thing is what's going to happen because Tesla holds and operates the network and the data, and they're able to make correct choices based on the utilization.
Well, and they know what their network is doing and how it works. How long do you think it takes Electrify America to know that one of their cables has been cut by someone trying to steal copper or just vandalize? My guess would be days until someone calls them. With Tesla, they know when it happens. Yeah. They know in real time that a cable has been cut.
8 temperature sensors just went offline. What does this mean?
It could mean any... Well, we're not monitoring that.
Tesla is.
Right. I just mean that Electrify America should be calling themselves kind of electrify some parts of America sometimes. It just wouldn't fit on the side.
The name's too long for the business card, Brian. That's not gonna happen.
It's literally a wide business card. That's wonderful. All right. Kacey, let's go down to page 10, see what more excitement do exist.
Hey, Moto.
Hello, Moto. We are planning to grow production as quickly as possible in alignment with the 50% compound annual growth rate target we began guiding to in early 2021. Some years we may grow faster and some years we may grow slower. You doubters, dependent on a number of factors. For 23, we expect to remain ahead of it with around 1.8 million vehicles for the year. I think that's low.
Yeah, that's sandbagging right there.
I think it is. We have ample liquidity to fund our product roadmap, long-term capacity expansion plans, and other expenses, and we will manage the business such that we maintain a strong balance sheet during this uncertain period. While we continue to execute on innovations to reduce the cost of manufacturing and operations, over time, we expect our hardware-related profits to be accompanied by an acceleration of AI, software, and fleet-based products. Cybertruck remains on track to begin initial production later this year at Giga Texas. In addition, we continue to make progress on our next-gen platform. Mark, thoughts?
That is good news. Again, it's par for the course that we believe is out there. But this is just reaffirmation that these parts of the company are firing properly, and it is good to see quarter after quarter that they're continuing to follow the same game plan, and the company is keeping up with it.
Sounds all right to me. Do we want to go to the next page, Kacey?
Yeah, I think that we'll see the net generation next before we see the Roadster.
Yeah.
The water test.
Look at that.
Okay, here you go.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, we saw the earlier pics a few weeks ago of it in New Zealand in the snow, and here we've got it in the water. So maybe this is part of the boat test.
Oh, maybe.
In the world famous LA River.
This is good. This is good.
That's more.
It is native habitat. With the single wiper.
Yes, with the katana, windshield wiper.
So I noticed it has the same flaw that my Model X has, where it's got this area that's just unwiped. Hopefully it's not directly in front of the driver's eyes like it is with my car.
Mm-hmm.
The Mega Wipe is failing a little bit in the mud.
Yeah. Wait. So they have them in wraps in the factory?
It's to maintain freshness, Kacey.
They don't want any photos. That's what that is.
They're actually worth more if you keep them in the original packaging.
Yeah, it's like a matchbox, but just on a bigger scale.
It's like that shipping container that had 3 roadsters in it.
Right.
They just go up in value when they're not unsealed. Okay, but that's an assembly line. Can we agree that is
definitely an
to the
That's a
doubters?
real assembly line, yeah.
That is and we knew that. We knew that. People watching
knew
this
that, but-
knew it.
Other people didn't know that.
They knew, but they were lying. They were dishonest.
Both.
And-
Both. Some of them were deluded, and others were actually actively lying.
Yes, sometimes I encounter smart people who say stupid things, and I remind them, I can tell you're not the one buying all the BS. You're the one selling it.
Look at like you could tell like which ones came out of the mega cast and which ones came out of like other stuff.
Stamping. And then
And there's
on
the
this
photo we already
picture,
saw.
some ding dong on Twitter today said, "Oh look, you're trying to tell me that that's a real car when it doesn't even have a driver's side door." The door's open, you nutter.
Yeah, window down, open. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Have you not? Maybe he's AI, and when the door's open, he's like, "I can't recognize it. I don't know what it is."
I've had others that have said that they got all these people in close to hide the panel caps.
Yeah, I did zoom in to see what they're talking about, and on the top of the hood, there and by the headlights as well, it might be imperfect, but it's VIN number 1, you clowns. And I'm going to tell you, if this was put up for auction today, it'd probably fetch $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strategically placed hard hats. Oh my goodness, what are we doing?
Do they wear hard hats in their other production lines though?
Yes, it is so there's on the carpet and off the carpet, and if you're on the carpet, like at the pilot line for the semi, the carpet delineates where you must have protective gear. If you're on the carpet, you're fine. You and I can walk around. If you wish to step off it, you need to be in protective gear. Fail Trains pointed out that on, I assume that means page 7. Yeah, page 7, if you scroll back up, we have made notable progress on yield improvement of our 4680 cell production lines.
Is that in US? Yep.
Did you find it? There it is.
End of US.
Yep. We continue building capacity for cathode production and lithium refining. We've made notable progress on yield improvement. Scientific question for you, gentlemen. What is notable in this context?
0.01%.
Any
Of
measure
note,
it.
duly noted.
Yeah, it's not an actual figure, is it?
It doesn't. It sounds like a figure, but it
It
isn't.
implies like 10 or 15, 20%, but it could be as low as 0.01%.
Right. It's like 11 kajillion. It's oddly specific for an imaginary number.
Yeah.
So I guess let's go back down to the factory where we were. Looking good. Key metrics quarterly. Vehicle deliveries in millions. Looking good. Operating cash flow and free cash flow. Fine. Net income. Fine.
When does Tesla, with all this free cash, become a bank? Like
Right.
they could be stocking money away ridiculous amounts as time goes on, as this ramps up continually.
Right. And people, well, when are we going to get a buyback? When there are no more worlds to conquer.
Yeah.
When we hit level 5, maybe Tesla doesn't want to sell cars anymore and only wishes to keep them. If that's the case, they're going to need $10 billion. Maybe the bot army will cost $10 billion. Maybe energy deployments can go up by 10. There's a lot of money, things on which to spend money. Now, I just realized, guys, we're doing this all wrong. We're overworking. We got to work easier. Kacey, I noticed there's a read aloud button. Why don't we just click that and we'll all take 5?
All right. But there's also the X.com. So you may need money for the instant money transfer stuff that PayPal was supposed to be before he got kicked out.
Yeah, I don't know how investors would feel about commingling that. Year over
X
year
would buy
growth.
them.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, I see what you mean. Year-over-year growth of revenue. Oh, I don't
Why is
hear
it reading backwards?
I don't know. Okay. Year-over-year growth of revenue growth. That's revenue growth. Oh my gosh. Operating margin, I'd say that's still very strong. Not as strong as we saw when cars were selling for any price at
Yeah.
all. People just
Yep.
needed them.
What's kind of interesting to me is they also measure S&P 500, of which they're a part of. So they are kind of sort of influencing that gray line themselves.
Yes.
Also the gray line because they're also part of the auto industry.
Yes. That's funny. Yeah, when Tesla was at its all-time highs, they'd say, "Oh, the S&P moved this much today." And it's like, "Yeah, but how much of that was Tesla alone? A measurable percentage." Yeah. Okay. I think we can go to 20. I think we'll go to 21. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, exciting. So many numbers. Revenue up. Automotive sales. Okay. Regulatory credits. Yeah, still strong. Do you remember in 2018 when people were saying, "Oh, those are going away like
Yep.
next quarter for sure, definitely within a year or two."
Well, they did
Yeah,
for one quarter, maybe
That's,
two.
So
Did
that's
they?
a few billion in their bank just from those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other
It's
car
a
companies
it's a
are
very nice
paying them.
piece of icing to have on your cake, and for so long.
I
They've got a
like
long-term
cake.
one with what Fiat or Stellantis, right?
I don't know if that one is still the Fiat Chrysler deal. I think may have ended with the Stellantis merger. I know Honda was buying credits in China. I don't know who's actually buying them, but I mean,
On the market, just at auction.
if you just look at the last 5 quarters, that's almost enough to build a factory.
Yeah.
And this is just the government propping them up. No, my friend, that money is available to everyone. That money is available to the other manufacturers. It is available to you and I if we start an EV company or even a high efficiency gasoline company. And it's not government money. If we're going to subtract this from Tesla to get the real financial numbers, we need to add back in to the other guys who bought them whatever penalty they would have had to pay instead of this discounted rate for a carbon offset.
Yeah.
The point you made about how it's almost enough for a whole factory also tells you that, man, if they had just did the right thing, they could have saved not just this amount of money, but also the penalty.
So dumb, right? It's because they're so beholden to their shareholders, who are mostly institutional investors, and you've seen the quality of questions those clowns ask, that they say, if you don't want to get voted off the board, you will drive quarterly profits. So next quarter, we need 1 quarter, 2 quarter profits, even if you're killing the golden goose.
That is the
There was a
problem.
little nugget in one of the groups I'm in where they pointed out that all of this mess actually started with the Chrysler brothers when they owned a minority stake in Ford, and Ford was going to reinvest in the company and reinvest in the employees. And instead they sued, and it became precedent that the company must be ever-growing profits over everything else.
Our responsibility is to the shareholders alone. Yeah. And
at the detriment of the company.
Well, they're supposed to look out for the company short-term and long-term, but when you've got institutional investors who own such a large stake that they can replace board members who don't deliver the short-term gains they want, the legacy guys were still paying dividends, like some of them probably still are, which is insane if true, but it's crazy to look at. Automotive sales. Oh, Mark, did you want to say something?
Nope, go ahead.
Oh, automotive sales up. It's up. It's up $1 billion. Automotive leasing about the same. Making sure I'm on the right lines.
And that leasing is also interesting in that it's not a normal lease anymore. You're missing 2 of the options that a normal lease comes with. At the end of the term, you cannot buy the vehicle. And at the end of the term, you can no longer trade the vehicle. That one was actually in there for a little while longer than the buying, that you could trade away the car. You can't do that anymore either.
R&D up. I think some investors would like to see that. I think that's good. I think that's a result of needing more R&D for the upcoming compact, and maybe for other things as well. We shall see. Let's see what else we got.
We saw with the Giga Mexico that they had indicated that permits were now being approved, and that we're getting ready to start that 9-month build, according to Tom Zhu. So we will see. Not sure if they'll actually fulfill that, but I'm glad to see that the guy that built Shanghai is at the helm of Giga Mexico. He's done it before.
He has done it before.
Factory racing each other.
He has done it before. I would point out that the 9-month build was phase 1, which was a single floor construction almost entirely. And phase 2 was almost as fast, despite being the multi-floor heavy concrete design, which is magical. But I don't believe for a second it'll be a 1-year build. I don't believe it. It's too big.
You don't think that they will build it in stages so that 1 or 2 production lines will go at a faster pace, and then, as in Shanghai, they'll add to it?
I do believe that they will, but we saw that in Berlin and Texas, and the first phase still took 2 years. It was still 2 years until they got cars out. Now, bear in mind, Berlin did have the disadvantage of a 3-month health-related shutdown, and Texas had mountains to move before they could begin even sinking pilings to get the foundation work done. So this does not appear to require that kind of grade work. It doesn't require ordnance disposal like they had in Berlin. And so it could move quicker in those regards.
You're also unlikely to have a bird and bat and reptile mating season, and people complaining about the water, save the cardboard forest. Oh, oops, you spilled a little bit of paint in the parking lot. Oh my goodness, there's fire extinguisher runoff. Oh, you should let the building burn down. What else happened in Germany?
There were permit corrections in Germany where when they went through, they said, this machine is supposed to be like, 80 centimeters that direction.
Centimeters,
Centimeters. We're not even talking a full meter. And they literally had to rewrite it, resubmit it, and get it reapproved. And you saw what the binders looked like for the permit. Yep. It would fill your desk.
Yep.
Let's see. Income from operations. I mean, I'm not seeing anything concerning or terribly exciting. Net income per share of common stock attributable to basic stockholders, 85 cents. Let's see. That's great. So on an annualized basis, that would be pretty exciting for me, at least. Because I'm always looking. This is all in my IRA, so I'm always looking at it and thinking, "What's this going to be when I'm retired?"
Well, it'll probably split a couple more times for one.
Yeah. Okay. Assets looking good. That's a lot of cash. Accounts receivable is up. I assume. I don't know. I don't know enough about that. I assume it's of no concern. Inventory remarkably stable. Prepaid expenses and go ahead.
The other automakers, or at least Chevy and Ford, when asked, claimed that they didn't spend any money on this, joining the Supercharger train.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have spent any money on the deal, but I do suspect that they'll have to spend some money on the adapters, the actual access, and the ports, unless they buy them from another manufacturer.
Well, I assume the patent is open on those. I mean, why wouldn't it be?
That's what we're told.
Yeah, they can put the port on there today, but what they all agreed to was Supercharger access, and it just seems to me that there might be some revenue in there, even if it's not a lot. but it doesn't seem to me that it'd be free like Mary describes, because we've seen how Mary's relation with accurate, truthful reporting is.
Well, she
number
didn't
one.
she didn't say the lies. She just heard them and nodded along. For anyone tuning in late, first of all, where have you been? Second of all, glad to have you. Third of all, we are doing a simulcast on My Tesla Weekend and the Tesla Life show with Kacey and Mark. They have a fantastic channel. You should check them out. They do a weekly, hour-long show. And sometimes they even have Patrick there with them, but apparently he was permitted to go on vacation, even knowing what an important week this is going to be.
Well,
Check
see what it
them
is?
out.
He put in his vacation request before we knew what day this would be, so we said yes. And he foiled us
Vacation
again.
request. I would love it if a YouTube channel like literally had, you didn't get it approved. I'm so sorry. You're
wasn't
going to have
stamped
to
in
tell
time.
your
I would imagine that
grandparents to
Linus
reschedule the family reunion. That's
I would imagine that Linus and crew might have it, but we're not.
no,
that big.
they would for sure. They would. He's not even the CEO anymore.
That's true. He stepped down.
Yeah.
Was it
He's
last
just
week?
the
Or week before?
pretty face.
Just a
It
guy?
might have been.
Pretty face,
It was
yeah.
very recent. Yeah. And I'm telling you, when my channel gets big enough, this will carry it. This don't happen on its own. Current liabilities barely up. Accrued liabilities and other barely. I mean, these numbers are nice and flat, like I like to see them. Non-recourse debt. So recourse debt, 44 million. Total debt, 44 million. Yeah.
Pretty flat. Yeah.
And that's low. That's as low as you can really get for a company with $24 billion in the bank. Days of sales outstanding, 12. I don't know why I kept hearing 15 or 16. I think it was just basic math.
Don't forget that most automakers prefer to have anywhere from 35 to 65 days of inventory.
Yes, because they need to have some of every model on every lot in every city in every country. Otherwise, what do they? How is the high pressure sales going to work if I can't make you a deal today to drive out?
You don't make this deal today, the red one's going to be gone, and you'll have to get blue. And you'll have blank buttons on the dashboard.
Will you throw in floor mats? No.
I can throw in some floor mats. They won't even be the proper brand floor mats, but I'll throw them in for you.
Yeah, they don't match.
My own socket.
Yeah.
They don't. The one I always loved was this weekend only massive tent sale. We're going to have cars at this great many at or below MSRP. I'm sorry, did you say many? That's not. Those cars aren't on sale. Those cars are for sale. Days payable outstanding. Okay. It's a lower number. I assume that's good. Okay. Page
Trending
23.
down.
Yeah. Statement O cash flows. That's also my pirate name.
Oh,
Yeah. I just decided.
you're a tricky
Man.
guy.
I'm Captain Fat Stacks.
Oh. Yeah, depreciation a little bit more because they have more assets to depreciate. Stock-based compensation. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right line there. Really? Oh wait. Is it really $445,000 for stock-based compensation? Who's that?
That sounds like an
going
Elon
to?
thing to do.
Well, right, but his is basically done.
Oh, that's true too. He's working for free
so-
right now. That's why he's a
I know.
Twitter.
I know Tom Jews had quite a few exercises in this quarter. I don't know if you're signed up for the email from Investor Relations, but they send those out.
They do. I'll have to sign up.
Other negative $47 million. I would love to have a line item in my life that is just, hey, by the way, also I got $47 million. Other.
The other column.
Changes in operating assets and liabilities. that's an improvement, right? Or is that a detriment? I'm not sure.
Don't
Well,
know.
changes in liabilities and your liabilities went negative. That's
so-
got to be a good thing, right?
Does it? Yeah. It's got
They
to
got
be.
less negative, so is that a bad thing?
Yeah, that's for someone else to know. At any rate, cash flow from operating expense up $500 million. I like that. Net cash used in activities up $1 billion from last quarter. It's a larger billion, right? Or net cash used in activities. Right. Yep. Okay. Net cash used in financing. All this looks fine.
On to the next.
Fail Trains wants to know, what the heck does purchasing of investments mean? That went up from $2 billion to $5 billion. I believe that's things like T-bills. That's something other than a checking account. I just think it means it could be short-term bonds that are not liquid per se, but are...
Would that have included something like a Bitcoin purchase too?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I don't know because I don't think you can call that an investment.
Okay.
Although they when Bitcoin dropped, they had to report that as a
As an
drop
impairment.
in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so
If anyone knows what
Bitcoin's
purchases of
moved-
investments means, tell us a lot. Tell us a lot. Tell us a lot. That's great.
Yeah.
So the EBITDA, 4.6 billions for a total revenue of 25 billies. Love it. And then let's go to 25 there.
reconciliation. You have to align your gap with your non-gap.
So Kacey, go ahead.
I don't even know where to begin on this one.
That is a lot of numbers, and
That's a mess. That's beautiful. I think we can go to additional information, see if there's any nuggets.
There could be.
4:30 p.m. Central Time. What's that, in 45 minutes?
46.56.
So we can... So for those of you tuning in, we're off our peak. But I don't think people realize we're powering right on through this.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I am going to take a bathroom break and be right back. You gentlemen, please
Alrighty.
continue.
Very
Rolling
good.
bathroom break.
So we've got some other questions that have come in through the SAY application.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got here? Did we
let's
answer? We
off
answered
the
the FSD one already, right?
Yep.
Next, can you provide some guidance on when we expect to see the first vehicles produced from Giga Mexico? Will it serve as a major hub for North America and beyond? We've had a guessing game as to when the first vehicle will come out of Giga Mexico, as well as when the first Cybertruck will be delivered to a customer.
Yeah.
So really, it's I'm not sure that they would answer this question at all. They'll just kind of be vague if this is actually answered at all.
They might mention that they got their permits, and if they're really confident, they might reiterate Tom's statement about it being 9 months to a year. I don't think they'll say more than that. As far as it being a hub, I would expect it would only do North America as long as we got the IRA.
But South America.
China's the export hub.
South America could be a new market for them. It's currently not a market at all, but it could open it up because, of course, Mexico has different deals with South America as opposed to just North America. So
and then it would matter if it's a better deal for Mexico or China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is possible. And of course, sitting in Mexico, that opens itself up to the United States and Canada automatically.
Which is the main goal for putting it there.
Yeah.
All right,
Next. as you open Supercharger in North America to other EVs, do you plan to accelerate and anticipatory investments in Supercharger expansion to avoid congestion, and how to deal with lead times? We've answered this already. Tesla is definitely watching the data that comes in, and they know exactly what's being used and what's being underutilized, and they will make those choices based on that data they're collecting.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. You sound better now that you talk to the microphone.
I disagree. I'm sure the comments can tell us. Oh, by the way, I've got a poll here with 186 votes. Earnings will miss, meet, beat, or just show me the results. Beat has it at 52%. Let's...
That's a little bit more negative than I thought it would be.
We can agree that they beat, right?
Yep, they beat.
Yeah. That's what I like to hear.
But of course, as we know with the Tesla stock, based on the company beating expectations.
Right. That means the stock will go down.
Of course. That's the way it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It would take a substantial beat, but wasn't Wall Street at 80 cents and we came in at 91? That's a significant beat.
It is.
So
it's a significant number, but that would of course result in a significant loss on the stock market.
It is
just the way that we're in the opposite world that we live in when it comes to Tesla on the stock market.
It is up 73 cents in the after-hour trading.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. So you guys just covered. So now, I think this question's for Moto. When and what is the rollout plan for Robotaxi?
Yeah, that's going to be a question that will not be answered.
I agree.
That will not be touched with a 10-foot pole during an earnings call.
I agree. It's beyond the horizon, and it's Any update on Tesla insurance? What will begin rolling? Will that begin rolling out internationally? And time frame for when will this be a meaningful contributor to margin?
Again, it might be touched upon about number of states that have enrolled and improvement in the number of states that are enrolling, but across internationally, man, if they're having trouble rolling it out in individual states in the United States, they're going to have a serious amount of paperwork to do when it comes to other countries. So it's not going to be that quick.
Is that true, though? Because the insurance regulations are state by state in the U.S. with 51 different districts, at least, that are responsible for it. I believe that D.C. has their own. Yeah, I don't know. Does Puerto Rico have their own insurance commission? Probably. So, yeah. And I don't know. I feel like other countries, you just have to do it once, but I don't know on that.
Well, that's true. Europe, the EU at least, might just be one zone to deal with.
David Rucker wants to know how many actual questions that will be asked will really be worth listening to. I'm going to say half. I'm going to say over half.
Okay.
50% is probably a good mark. I would agree.
Mike is saying he thought Tesla hired or had at least a job post for an insurance rep for the UK. Interesting, if true. Yeah. What was behind the decision to scale production of Dojo? What are the space and electricity savings in comparison to your second best option? Is the time result faster for the same compute?
Wow.
That
is a question that's above my pay grade. I do not know.
Well, let me ask you one question, Mark. Is it faster for the same compute using Dojo? I mean, yes, right? Otherwise, why would they do it?
Right. Also, I have a feeling that some of this, other than the fact they even talked about Dojo today, he would say is not on topic. And the decision to scale it, like, why would we start making it if we weren't going to scale it?
Right.
And they already gave us space and electricity savings in the presentation.
Yeah. This is more of a Google
second best
question.
option, same thing.
right?
Yeah.
What's the roadmap for Tesla Solar?
That's a
Scribbled on the back of a napkin, as far as I can tell.
It's a rocky road, that's for sure.
It looks like a
it's,
pirate map. It's got an X and it says solar on it. Here be sunshine.
Well, yeah, it's usually the sun is shown on those pirate maps, so that makes sense. You know, it kind of goes around a palm tree and around a mountain, and then the X. Yeah.
The other side from the dragons. Got it.
Yeah. There you go.
Please describe the progress towards cost reduction goals presented at Battery Days.
I like that question. Whether we get an answer, don't know, but I like that question.
I don't think we will, but what do you expect the answer would be?
Maybe they've got 50% of the technologies implemented and however much progress they have at actually making these things.
Again, there's been a delay in this because of the changes that they've made in the battery architecture and production of the batteries, and it has not gone to plan. It's something that they're working on, and of course, they've bet a large portion of the company on producing these better and quicker to build and cheaper batteries. That's what the whole thing was with the company moving to the stage of having enough batteries, was that we are going to get in there and actually provide companies the ability to know how to make these batteries cheaper and faster. And the whole thing about Battery Day was being able to say that we're going to reduce the cost, we're going to increase the yield, and we're going to make them quicker, and we're going to roll them out. So this is what they're betting on, and this is what they're working on. Again, hasn't gone as fast as they hoped based on what we've seen previously, but we hope, and of course with the guidance today, they've indicated that they're getting some successes. They're increasing the spooling process, and more actual lines are going into place at different gigafactories based on the improvements made at Cato Road. So these are all pluses. It's just that it's not as quick as they had initially hoped.
I would agree with that.
They've got some of the new tech in there as well. Like we saw they opened up the lithium refinery. Monroe said he saw the dry electrode stuff going on, and the rest of it seemed kind of incremental for what they were doing before, other than the can size.
That's exactly my take on it. I would say they have not sunk an enormous amount of money into it, and we know because looking at the financials, I can't see the bottomless pit the way Meta does with the metaverse. That shows up like a open canker sore. Yeah, they need to get that sorted out. So the worst case scenario is they give up and just let other people make 2170s, and that's still profitable. So this will be better than that.
Yeah. And there's nothing saying they can't make structural packs out of 2170s if they give up. Right. At that point, then it would be worth it. But at the moment, if you're going to make structural and you plan to move the company to 4680s, there's no point in making the machinery accept 2170s to do structural.
Couple comments I wanted to address. William said, "There's no solar in Australia. We really want it."
Really?
Yeah, that feels like something they should get on. Cress says, "Really happy with free cash flow this quarter." Yeah, an extra $1 billion. That's great. And let's see. Okay, so I like this next one. What are your initial observations with advertising? I'd love to hear an answer to this. How well has it stimulated demand relative to the other levers available to Tesla? Referral credits, promo, pricing. That part, the second part I think is harder, but what are the initial observations?
Well, we did see those advertisements going out on Google. Did anyone see anything other than Google?
There was a print ad in a magazine that was for like a trade show or something. It felt more like, oh, you've got a booth, we'll also give you an ad, or maybe they had to pay for it in addition. But that is extremely targeted. That is the most targeted print ad you can ever get. And the Google ads, you can always track your success. You can literally see how well it worked. So
it's more their style, yeah. And then we
It's
saw
more
a
their
few more
style.
of those videos they typically already were making. A few more of them seem to have come out.
Yes, and we need more of those. I'll tell you what we really need is a good 30-minute B-roll, because I have seen the same B-roll used by the same channels over and over 1,000 times.
So you're
We
saying
get
that
it.
it would be best for Brian if there was extra B-roll to use within your YouTube videos. That's what you're saying. Tesla,
I
you
don't
should
really
spend
use it.
your money. You should
I don't
spend your
really
money
use
on
it.
B-roll and just send it to me.
Yeah, just, hey man, if they want to do that, I'm in. I don't really use the B-roll anymore. I did that for a while and it just felt cheesy. So the only B-roll I use now is from my own videos. And I've got enough of them that I can usually find something.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. But if you have anything, Mark, send it. Send it right now. Yeah, why has Tesla avoided powered frunks? Even in the S and X, cost and complexity can't be the issue, can they?
It looks like the
Yeah,
Cybertruck will have one.
That is interesting that they shied away from it with the Model S refresh. It disappeared. It's never been a thing on the 3 or the Y. So just the S and the X. And I thought that was a little bit of a distinguisher between the two lines. And
They don't care about S and X. They take
Yeah,
the money
and
and choose their criminal.
apparently the S and X have become the redheaded stepchild because
They always have been as soon as the 3 came out.
Casey, you
Legacy.
sound bitter.
Legacy.
But he doesn't sound wrong. I'll tell you, the reason the Cybertruck has a power frunk is because people like
too
me
heavy
wouldn't
for
be
everybody
able
to
to
lift.
open. I can't
Yeah.
reach it. What are you going to do?
reach
Put
it.
a
And it's
7
made
foot
of steel.
strap on it so I can reel it back in? Come on, man. Oh. Yeah.
And another thing that many people, or some may not know, is that that power trunk is going to be more like a Ford, where the front end of the what would be the grill is actually going to go up with the trunk, which is a welcome change to what we had seen.
Yeah, that first one was like, oh, you got to reach over that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yeah, you just slide it on in like the lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just looking at it. It doesn't seem. Sorry, I got a comment that I'm not going to read. It doesn't seem. I might read it. That getting over that grill would have been prohibitive, and it didn't seem like that big of an engineering challenge. Now, Fail Trade was saying that if we need a strap on, that they would get me a 7-foot one. So that would be great.
I do think that it looked to me like the Chevy, well, all the GMs except the Hummer looked like they were going to go that same route as Tesla was going, where just the top came up, and like at the last minute, just like Tesla, they went for the Mega Frunk as well.
It's easy.
Sometimes you get an idea from a competitor that just makes complete sense, and you
the
wonder.
The Hummer is just the deck, right? Not the whole thing.
Right, and you wonder why you never noticed it. It's that obvious. But hats off to Ford. They definitely made an innovation that makes complete sense and will be welcomed by anyone buying these trucks.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Can you provide us with an update on the Tesla Semi? What do you see as the current annual market opportunity, and what is a reasonable market share aspiration?
Oh, next question, Bob. I would like the answers.
Well, the answer I would expect if we get this far down, which I don't believe we would, is the big answer is all semis. The small answer is Kenworth is number one. They're around 100,000 units. We expect to be able to do that or better. So it's big. It's very big. And the nice thing about semis is they don't stay in use forever. They age out with use, and all of them will be replaced at a predictable pace. It's not like cars where you can just decide, you know what, I'm going to squeeze some more time out of it, or I'm going to have 2 or 3 laying around versus 1. Companies don't generally buy spares of $250,000 items.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2. depending on how
one or
large the
two.
fleet is.
But they don't just, they don't buy.
And even
a
then, that
bunch
would
of
be like
extras.
the local one, and like, oh, we're gonna sacrifice that best effort local route with the spare to do our money making route.
This is my Sunday tooling around semi.
I would also say that the Semi is in kind of the same position as the 4680 batteries. This is a brand new endeavor, a new production line, and Tesla is living it day by day, with Pepsi, of course, supplying some information back in Frito-Lay from their actual use of the semis on the roads. This is something that Tesla is living and learning, and we've seen that from the tow pictures. We've seen that from the production amounts that have been sent out, and we've seen that no other company that of the few thousand orders that are in for these vehicles have received a Semi as well. So Tesla is obviously looking at the results they're getting from this vehicle and the use at Frito-Lay, and they're judging, making changes, they're updating, they're making software tweaks up and down. This is something that they have to live through, and this is how they do research and development at Tesla. Is they tend to do it live as they're rolling out these vehicles to a controlled small market that they know they're not going to get bad PR from if there are issues. The company's going to keep quiet on it. They're going to supply the information, and they're getting some sort of spiff in the back end, I'm sure, for this information.
And they can't ramp Semi until they build the factory in which to build them. It will be on an assembly line. It will be high volume. And I think part of the delay is, wouldn't it be great if battery prices came down a little bit more before we actually started building them at high volume? And
kind of rolled in megawatt.
Yeah, and I agree with everything else that was said. Oh, if you add vehicle to grid on that thing, power the whole neighborhood for 3 days. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So when do you guys think that they will switch those ports on the Semi from MCS2 to either the NACS or MCS3?
I have no idea. No earthly idea. Mark?
No, we've toyed with this for a while. It's everything should become NACS compliant across the Tesla architecture, I would think, unless there's some sort of limitation based on the amount of power that can flow through it properly. I think that they'll move it. It's just a question of when. And as Brian has mentioned, they're building these things by hand right now. They're not on an assembly line. So maybe that's something that they will put as soon as the mass building begins at a factory.
Yeah, because they've got 3 sites that will need updating right now because they have MCS2 handles. And the reason that nobody else has put MCS2 out is the intellectual property issues. That in MCS3 is almost done. Almost, however long the standard takes to be almost something you can use. And another benefit to going NACS is that uncooled, so just an air-cooled cable, they can do 1 megawatt through it. That doesn't say that if they liquid cool it, which they are already doing at V3, that they might not still be able to get the 3 megawatt that you get through MCS through the NACS if they liquid cool both sides of the cable.
And with so few trucks on the road, retrofitting would be a task you could really do in a week. For all of it. I wouldn't worry about that.
And 3 sites,
Right. And so John points out Tesla buys spare gigacasting machines, and I would push back on that and say, do they? Because all the ones I've seen are in use. They buy, they're all in use. They have more capacity than they need because they have to count on downtime. And I would say that Semi fleets do the same thing. They will have, like you were saying, Kacey, a spare or 2, and those will still get regular use. Yeah. Synthetic Spy had a really good feature suggestion, and I think this is something Tesla's probably going to do. If we have an air pressure frunk, we might as well use the air for ejector seats too.
Well, the good thing is that Elon did say that we will be able to use the air for other things like power tools and inflating your tires.
I would love
Assuming
to see
that it doesn't centrally inflate.
I would love to see the Cybertruck take Ford's idea of a cooler in the frunk and go one step further and pipe in the HVAC.
Yeah.
It's a refrigerator. Why not? And it's stainless steel like my Amana.
It's a refrigerator.
Yeah.
And you can use it as yet another heat sink, depending on, if you tell them you got food or drinks in there, and use that as you will on the trip.
So as a reminder to the viewers, we've got, 25-ish minutes until the call. Is that right?
Yep.
24:14.
5:30-ish Eastern.
And so we're only about 25 minutes until the call. A reminder for those just tuning in as well. I'm Brian from My Tesla Weekend. Joining me on this simulcast going out on My Tesla Weekend and the Tesla Life is 2/3 of the crew from the Tesla Life show, Mark and Kacey. Patrick is on assignment in Kacey. So that's I stole that joke from James Stevenson. I can't lie. So I'd feel bad. It's
If you just rolled with it, okay, very good.
I just rolled with it. It's yeah.
It's bad taste.
I'm not going to steal jokes. What am I, Amy Schumer? So okay. Tesla's solar roof is too expensive, and the support process for retrofit customers is horrible. Now that
Gaff?
Giga as F has gotten into solar shingle. Oh, that's a different company. Does it make more sense to target solar roof for only new construction and large multi-home builders where the installation is simpler? So there's no chance that they're going to get to this question today, but that doesn't mean I don't like it.
And even if they did, they wouldn't answer it.
Have you seen what the quotes people are getting for the, not just a normal solar roof, but the fancy one?
No, but I don't think I'd like to see that number. I think that would be a little bit prohibitive.
More than your house in some cases.
Oh,
Actually,
my gosh.
For this house I'm in, when the solar roof first came out and you could get quotes on it, it was twice as expensive as the house.
Yeah. It's heart stopping. So I would say that the answer to that is absolutely yes. They do make more sense on a new home where you're doing all the work anyway. You can plan for 5 or 10 of them, or at least, I don't know, work it into the cost.
Move it into
I asked a dealer,
communities.
Whole communities would work.
New build
but at the beginning of the pandemic, I asked a new home builder about, like, hey, what if I were to get this done? He's like, oh, no, we don't work with anybody else. You'll have to get a roof and then rip it off and then put a new one on.
Right.
What?
Yeah. And then again, will Tesla ever treat FSD purchase as a license? No.
They might, but it's not foreseeable by any means.
And it's certainly, you're not going to get a yes today on that. That's faux sure.
Elon will hurt your feelings if he gets to that question.
This one won't. If it's asked, we already know the answer. What's the status of Cybertruck?
That's a wasted question right there.
It's
I hope
in
they
the
put it in
shareholder
before the
deck.
announcement.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that was in before the announcement came out.
Oh, yeah. Would Tesla consider purchasing or partnering with an existing big HVAC company?
Probably not, because they don't do that currently.
No, I would agree.
And they were talking about using the existing technology to just do their own.
Yeah.
And that's going to be future product and blah, blah, blah. Elon wouldn't answer this.
Right.
He might smile, though.
Yeah, he might. Kick out of it.
Might smile.
So, can the cost to produce a 4680 compete with state-of-the-art tech from cattle?
That's the plan.
I mean, yeah, that's the plan. Can it? Yes. Can it? Yes. Will it?
Does it?
It's tough to say, because if you're talking about LFP batteries, because CATL makes both, they make all kinds of batteries. Are you asking if a high nickel battery chemistry can compete with LFP? The answer on that would be no. No, it's more expensive materials, right?
But
it'd be
it could
close.
compete with cattle high nickel, or
Exactly.
you can put an LFP 4680 and it could compete with cattle's high technology 4680, high technology LFPs with your.
I agree with you, but I think Mark's going to totally disagree. Mark, take it away.
Again, I see the problem is that that Tesla has designed something new. They are not on par with where they thought they would be today, And I just keep beating the same drum because we've seen the disappointment when it comes to the installation of the 4680s. So over time, if go back to battery day, you just look at the benefits that they were displaying with building the batteries differently, the different chemistries, all of it contributing to basically a 50% reduction across the board.
You need to put it all in there to get the 50%.
When you put it all together. Yeah. And that's the idea. That's the reason they went on this journey. And I don't see them giving up on that. As Brian mentioned, they're not sinking a lot of R&D into this. They're spending some money, but they're refining and they're modifying as time goes along, and they're starting to get to some of these goals. The yields are getting higher, as mentioned in the Q2 results today. The yields are getting better. So they're not ready to throw in the towel, nowhere near it. But they still have got a long way to go to get to the point that Battery Day outlined to us that it was going to be pretty simple. And again, that's Brian's chart. He can make a chart any way you want to see it. And that's what we were presented at Battery Day. Now it's can they do it?
And when they don't look right, I just turn them.
Zoom out.
I would add that, to your point, this is all about cost control, and cost control is something they're very, very good at. When other car companies come along and say, we're going to build a Tesla, but better, what they mean is more expensive, more complicated, more difficult to build, and vastly more expensive. So when Tesla says, we've got a Model 3 and we're going to make a better Model 3, they mean simpler, something that they can sell cheaper. Mm-hmm. And these cost controls mean we have seen massive price cuts and the margin is almost unchanged.
Yeah.
That's I don't second guess them when it comes to things like this.
Actually, that brings up a great point, Brian. Saw one of your recent videos where you were out in the field and doing a little presentation in front of a group of people in Oregon, I believe. Vancouver, was it?
That was in Portland. Mm-hmm.
Portland, Oregon. Okay. And you talked a little bit about Giga Mexico and how Tesla was going to make that vehicle even easier and cheaper to build. And then with the IRA credits that are available, you came up with a shocking number for sale of a $25,000 car. Maybe just reiterate that a little bit for the people here.
Sure. If it is $25,000, and at launch it may not be, but it could be soon. If the $7,500 IRA credit is still there, the EV incentive at the federal level, you add on some state incentives, and there are places right now with local incentives as high as, and I'm not joking, $14,700. Now, you wouldn't qualify for all of those and the $7,500 because some are low income, and they're meant to offset folks who wouldn't qualify for the $7,500. But even like in Colorado, at one point they were at $10,000. New Jersey's got a big credit too. If you've got a $5,000 local incentive, you take your $7,500 and your $5,000, that $25,000 car is $12,000.
Yeah.
$12,000. When was the last time you bought a quality car for $12,000?
Several decades.
I'd say never.
And
how many cars would Tesla sell at that amount in North America? Like it would be, you'd need 5 Giga Mexicos to keep up with demand.
Meanwhile, BYD would have their factory open and they'd be trying to sell $35,000 cars. It's crazy. And yeah, you would need to start tearing down bridges to get enough steel to build those cars. When was the last time you bought a quality used car for $12,000? It's
half as long.
Yeah. So,
that's interesting.
Will the NACS adapter for automakers like Ford and Rivian be quite long to account for their incorrectly placed charge ports? Otherwise, they'll have to clog multiple supercharger stalls per vehicle. I don't think they're going to make longer cables because that leads to them not coiling up properly when you put them back. It leads to them being dropped or damaged.
The adapters themselves, like the Chatham adapter has more length than the CCS adapter has.
Yeah, I don't know. And first of all, not an earnings call question.
True, that's
No,
future product.
won't get there.
But the way I see
Doesn't
that
stop
happening
us from
is
speculating.
it's gonna depend on where they see the V4 superchargers rolling out, since those have a 2.5 meter cable and a proper way to coil them, as well as because remember in 2024 is adapters, 2025 is native ports, and they haven't said that the native ports are going to move to the correct place, but they haven't said that they won't either.
Well,
Yeah.
the nice thing about where Ford puts theirs is that it is in the wrong spot, but that's their philosophy is they want Ford to be outstanding even in the parking lot where they're charging. So it really makes them stand out.
Well, that kind of
yeah.
leads us a little bit of news that the third V4 has gone into place currently in Austria.
Oh,
So, and this one actually includes the card reader that we saw displayed at the UK show. So, and of course, this is to comply with the European requirement to have multiple payment points. So it's not something that Tesla wants to do. This is something that regulatory they are required to do in certain European countries. So that's something interesting. But as Kacey mentioned, the coiling of the wire, the cord for the V4s, it's just a loop from one side to the other. So you get a little bit more length. And I think that would solve the problem of Fords and others having to park a little bit strategically in order to get to those plugs. But the other thing that we've talked about previously, and maybe Brian's view on this would be interesting, is how come they're not rolling out the V4s a little bit quicker? Maybe starting to put those in North America if they know that that's part of their strategy for the 12,000 plugs that are 12,000 stations that are going to be used for other vehicles outside of Tesla. Why have they not started with this?
My best speculation would be a lack of parts. These are the electronics are different, and surely they bought them well in advance. And these are specialized parts. You can't just ask for another 1,000 and get them. They have to. There's
True.
a lead time, and they have to spool up. It's like when the shift from analog to digital TV happened. They had to postpone the deadline because the deadline literally could not be met by the manufacturers that existed at the time. And so they were able to get an extension for that. So I think that's probably what we're seeing. I don't think the cost per charger is substantial enough that that would be a consideration. And it could be that they're still making sure that it is design complete before they roll them out too wide, so they don't have a lot of rework to do if they are not, if they're not working adequately. Would be my thought.
Makes sense.
I did have a
one
couple
thing
comments.
I did like about
Oh yeah, go ahead.
about them was the integrated payment terminal setup is a lot nicer than what California was asking for, and what the UK was asking for. Still compliant, but wow, it looks so much nicer.
Yeah. I just need one that takes quarters.
They're probably going to ask for that too.
Synthetic Spy says it'll be 25,000 after they meet what will likely be demand so strong we can't even believe our eyes. And 3DH Design says, I think the Econo car will be built at more factories than just Mexico. India?
Yeah, Mexico
China,
first.
Berlin? Mexico first. Berlin got their permit. We've seen the permit application for the space they intend to expand on. Tobias Lin said, it's only 700 meters by 700 meters. And I said, that's 5.5 million square feet. That's 120 acres. The entire Giga
On one
Shanghai on one floor. They'll go up. That's right. 5.5 million is roughly the square footage of the footprint of Texas. And this is their phase 2, not both phases combined. And so then we've got Shanghai, the entire property is only 210 acres. So this is 65% of the land available for the Shanghai. It is ginormous. And it is, and then the question is, if they're not building compact, what are they building in there? They certainly wouldn't need that much space for Model 3s. And there's nothing else that's been announced. Clearly, this will be a compact car factory. And my pet theory is every design studio will get to design their own. There'll be a Berlin variant, a Mexico variant, a China variant, and whatever other factory gets one. And there will be some cross-shipping to different markets. So if you want the China car, it'll be road certified here. They'll bring over a couple boatloads at a time. Why not? And sell those $25,000 cars for $50,000. Because, I said
Shipping
Go to the global headlight, so the car in software,
costs.
in software, the car will adjust your headlight beam pattern as you cross country borders.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Global headlight?
Global headlight?
Yeah.
Some require the ability to program the light that it goes a certain way. So if you build a headlight that can work in all different aspects, and all it requires is an update to the software, you just buy one headlight and load the software based on where it's being sold.
And when you cross the border, the matrix headlight goes to adaptive.
Exactly.
Love it.
Just like the kilometers and miles changes when you cross the Canadian border.
Yeah.
My Nissan Quest doesn't offer that. I'm having trouble understanding why Elon and Zach think margins on Megapack 2XL are only 25%. Why would the cost per kilowatt hour exceed 300? And why wouldn't the gross margin be above 50? Well, guess what? The slide deck is out. Why didn't you wait for that, Julba?
Right.
Why do you think that? Because we've seen the numbers. There's more to it than the cell cost. It's the whole thing. I assume that price will come down especially as the ramping continues and it just gets better. I am surprised that the margin is as low as it is, but remember that the 2XL is 2XL. It is way bigger than the old one. It weighs an extra 27,000 pounds. So it went from, I think, 55,000 to 82,000 pounds. And why? Just because it did. Because that's a better number according to the engineers. And I trust them.
Comment on our side from Luffy Karis asking, is that a China variant or strain? Well, we're not going to get into virus names, but yes, there will be a different version of that compact car for the different gigafactories.
That's my belief. We haven't heard any confirmation of that, but why not? The 3 and Y were built on largely the same platform. They were meant to be built on entirely the same platform, but enough changes came along that they're a little bit different. So they were able to, but the plan would remain the same. Why not have a city car for China, a hot hatch for Europe, a whatever?
And didn't we it kind of modes into the narrative based on us hearing that Berlin was going to design its own car. Shanghai had a R&D facility that was going to design its own car. It made sense that if you're going to make the one car, why not just base it on a common platform and make some sheet metal look a little bit different based on the needs of that community or that region. It's something that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Spency Spence says, trade your Quest in. I'd love to. I have 4 boys, 3 of whom are adults. They all still live at home because they're my best friends and I don't want to kick them out. And who can afford to live on their own these days? So I need capacity for 6, and the Model Y is a little too tight for these guys. And I don't got no Model X budget. So that's where that's at. I appreciate the kind gesture. David Huber says he wants adaptive headlights. I do too. Have we not gotten approval to actually use those yet?
I don't know if we aren't allowed to use them. I think with the IRA it became legal. Tesla doesn't actually use them anywhere other than changing the region shape, and the Christmas stamps where it's spelled Tesla on the ground.
Jack Talbert showed up. My old buddy Jack, good to see you.
Hey, Jack.
Yes. Where are we at here? By the way, less than 6 minutes until the call starts. Do you have that queued up for when it's go time?
I do. And then Luciferius
Yeah, we got this when you're on your bio break.
We got it, Kacey. We got it, okay?
All right. Tesla claims 4 minutes and 44 seconds. So I will refresh the page and see if it has a play button.
Well, that's a side bet. How late will they be?
On
I say
earnings
up to 10
calls,
minutes.
he's pretty good. He's pretty
Exactly.
good. William wants to know, and this is a fair question, where are the 150 new models from competitors coming? I mean, where are they?
That's an interesting question.
Because you remember, for the last 11 years, all of the major car companies said in just a few years, we're going to have a complete lineup of cars that are better, faster, cheaper, nicer, better built.
That seems to be the common line for legacy car makers, that all you have to do is wait a couple years. And of course, if you listen to their jargon the next year, it's just move back a year. So it's this move the goalpost as often as you can, and people forget about it after a year and didn't realize that you're now saying 2027 when last year you were saying 2026. So
what I've noticed is the big announcements are always 3 to 5 years out, which coincides nicely with the average tenure of a CEO of an automotive company. And then the new person comes in, they're like, boy, that last guy was a real dingus. Hey, 3 to 5 years, my friend. Like magic. It's like the solid state battery Toyota's been promising since 2012. It's going to be here in a few years. It's going to give you infinite range. It's going to come pre-charged. You'll never have to charge it. And also, we're doing hydrogen.
Hydrogen in 20 years. Everybody's been saying GM and Toyota.
Why are you working on hydrogen if you have a miracle battery, Toyota? Are you lying again?
Well, they need the miracle battery to bump their hydrogen.
Unfortunately, up here in Canada, Edmonton, Alberta bought into the Toyota mythology and have purchased 100 Mirai. They bought 100 of them and are going to put in a fueling station at the airport.
Versus your other province that bought all those buses and said, no, that's stupid, and canceled the order.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So some catch on, some do. There's always hope.
But I think Nissan's the real leader here because they are the only manufacturer who will have used all 3 plugging standards.
Yes.
They want to play the
old ones. They had AFCON on their ones that they pulled back before when the EV1 got crushed.
Did they really?
They just wanted to play.
So they're on their
field.
4th standard.
Yeah.
You got to know what's out
what
there.
Standard means.
You got to know what's out there before you choose what you're going to go with.
Also, they have the Chatham replacement coming in Japan, the one that they're sharing with China.
So William also points out that Gordon Johnson is still saying 150 new models next year. Come on, Gojo. We will not be ending the stream for the call. No, we'll be, I don't know. I think we'll be sitting here making funny faces going, really?
We'll interject for sure.
Hydrogen is to keep gas companies alive. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
You can have change anything about their model.
Yeah. You can have green hydrogen, or you can have cheap hydrogen, but you cannot have cheap green hydrogen. That defies the laws of physics.
Well, you say cheap hydrogen, but the hydrogen we have now is, what would we find out it was, $16 a kilogram, Mark, when we looked?
Yep. Yeah,
so it's not even cheap.
Expensive. It's quite expensive. I remember at the Toronto Auto Show, they brought in a hydrogen pumping station that was there for a demonstration, but it actually had been used because it had shown the last fill up in number of liters, and basically it equated to over $150 to fill up the tank of Mirai. So this is not a cheap option. Never has been, never will be. So it's
not never, but probably not.
Probably.
Don't forget that the kilogram is equivalent. The 1 gallon equivalent, basically, right there. So you would need a car that is, that much more fuel efficient than gas just to be equal. To get that price to play out. And what we've seen is, say the Model X P100D that I drive is 87, 88 mpge. A hydrogen car doesn't typically touch that.
John wants to know, why isn't Brian standing outside Giga Texas trying to get into the earnings meeting? I don't know if you guys know this, but for a long time, the running gag was that I had been to so many factories and events and never got in. Never. It was my 9th attempt where I finally was able to secure a ticket and get into the shareholder meeting. Oh yeah, it was a big deal, and I was just ready for it to just fall apart at the last minute, but it didn't. I was like, oh, it's a meme at this point. Oh my god, I've been to so many.
How many YouTubers got turned at the gate?
For what?
Was the last one?
Cyber Rodeo. So yeah. Cyber Rodeo, by the way, had 20,000 tickets, and there were, as far as I know, 2 YouTubers who did not get in, me and Dr. Know-It-All. And he immediately was able to get an invite to AI Day 1 or 2. And so he was able to do that, and then he also got in for the shareholder meeting.
But there was the one where Omar and Kilowatts and a couple others.
Okay, yep, I was at that one. That was Reno. That was for the semi-launch. I also, and Jessica Kirsch, went one step further than I did. I waited for security to escort me off the property. As I understand, she waited for security to physically remove her from the property.
Well,
because that's a good way to not get invited again.
Yeah, maybe. And that's why I didn't do that. But you, and it's very frustrating. Does that mean it's about that time?
Definitely that time. I don't know why it stopped sharing. They're loading up.
Okay.
Is it got the play button yet? Oh, there. A little bit robotic.
Uh-oh. Are we going to have... Kacey has turned himself to slideshow mode.
Yes.
Maybe I'll cut my video.
It was a bit robotic. And now it's nothing.
Surpassing the likes of Corolla.
It went away.
So the number one vehicle of any kind, including vehicles at a seller or lower price. I think an incredible achievement by the Tesla team, and just a huge thank you to our customers for their support. So this came in spite of high interest rates and a lot of macro uncertainty, and nonetheless, we managed to achieve operating margin of about 10%. We continue to target 1.8 million vehicle deliveries this year, although we expect that Q3 will be a little bit down because we've got summer shut.
It's cut out. Yeah, and Kacey, you've gotten staggered again.
And now you're quiet.
Dedicated robotaxi products.
Nope. Just you and me, Mark.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. He's just resetting the browser. He'll be back in a moment.
Might need to start it over and play it at 1 1/4 to catch up.
Yeah.
I'll
get a boot out of him, but...
So is that a collection of rashed aero covers?
Actually, unrashed completely.
They look nice. Oh, apparently other channels are having problems with the sound as well. It may not be just us. Oh, it's not just us. Kacey, apparently it's not just us. Everyone is having problems with the sound. So, Mark, I was saying that it's not just us. Other channels are having problem with the sound as well.
Okay.
This is fun, you guys. I'm going to go back and edit it so that we're the only ones with the good audio.
I think
There you go.
so we might have 90% of all.
They're running us through Twitter, of course, right?
Oh, God, is that what they're doing?
The success in AI is a function of talent, sort of unique data, and computing resources. And we have outstanding capabilities in all three arenas. And I really just don't know how anyone could do what we're doing, even if they had our software and had our computer, if they did not have the training data. So, speaking of which, our Dojo training computer is designed to significantly reduce the cost of neural net training. It is designed to, it's enormous. So I think we expect to use both NVIDIA and Dojo, to be clear. But we just see a demand for really vast training resources. And we think we may reach in-house neural net training capability of 100 exaflops by the end of next year. So to date, over 300 million miles have been driven using FSD beta. That 300 million mile number is going to seem very it'll soon be billions of miles, then tens of billions of miles. And FSD will go from being as good as a human to then being vastly better than a human. We see a clear path to full self-driving being 10 times safer than the average human. So, and between pilots,
yeah, that's chopping up.
In the car, which we call hardware 3, 4. But it's really dedicated. It's a
Whatever they change, it's terrible.
It's clearly at the cutting edge of AI development. With regard to our Cybertruck, we continue to build release candidates of the Cybertruck on our final production line in Austin. I'm actually here in Austin at the Giga factory. This is the first truck that we're aware of that will have 4 doors over the bed garage. So it's biggish on the outside, but it's so it's that's one of the elements of good design is it should feel bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside. And this is a small car, but we really cared about the exterior dimensions, 10 millimeter. So it's just
Every third word's okay, right?
Maximize the utility of the volume, and we can't wait to start. Some other highlights: our global supercharging network now stands at over 50,000, roughly 50,000 connectors and over 5,000 locations. As I think a lot of people are aware, the Tesla charging standard was made open source and is now called the North American Charging Standard. That Ford, GM, Mercedes, and many other OEMs have signed up to use our connector charging network. We strongly believe in helping other companies to accelerate the EV revolution and just trying to do the right thing in general. So there. Then something I think I want to emphasize very, very strongly, this is a very important point, is that Tesla, just as with the North American charging standard, although we're not licensing, in that case, we're not licensing, we're just making it available. but we are very open to licensing our full self-driving software and hardware to other car companies. And we are already in discussions with, early discussions with a major OEM about using the Tesla FSD. So we're not trying to keep this to ourselves. We're more than happy to license it to others. And lastly, our new lithium refinery and cathode facility are progressing well. Then in conclusion, we continue to focus on making as many cars as we can while maintaining healthy financials. Our artificial intelligence development is obviously entering a new era, and we're incredibly excited about what's to come. Our other businesses, such as Megapack, Supercharging, service, and whatnot, all started to become a meaningful contributor to overall profitability this quarter. And then lastly, I'd just like to profusely thank all of our employees who are making a lot of extra effort during uncertain times. Thank you very much for your hard work and the impact you're making.
Thank you very much, Elon. And I think Zach has some opening remarks as well.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. As Elon mentioned, Q2 was another record quarter of production and deliveries, as well as records in profit for our energy and services and other businesses. Congratulations again to the Tesla team on the continued progress. As we navigate through a period of economic uncertainty, rising interest rates, volatility in consumer confidence, and regulatory change, I want to comment on our financial approach. First, the single most important priority is to ensure we are continuing to invest heavily in the core technologies that will drive the long-term value of the business. This includes increasing spending on AI-related technologies such as full self-driving, Optimus, and Dojo, as well as new products such as Cybertruck, our next-generation platform, and the Semi, as evidenced by the continued growth in our R&D spend. This also includes continuing our investments in capacity expansion, not only in our vehicle factories, but also our supercharging network, service, internal applications, and battery processes, as we continue with meaningful capital expenditures to lay this foundation for the future. Second, we continue to work towards our goals of maximizing volumes on both our vehicle and energy business, but most importantly, doing so in a way that generates the capital to continue our pace of R&D and capital investments. This requires a strong focus on per unit COGS reductions in each of our key businesses, as well as working capital improvements on raw materials, work in process inventory, and customer AR, all of which progressed appropriately in Q2. If we look specifically at our automotive business, our gross margins showed a modest reduction and remain healthy, despite action taken to further improve vehicle affordability early in the quarter. We realized per unit cost improvements in nearly every category, including material cost and commodities, manufacturing costs, and logistics, while also continuing to rapidly increase the build rate in our Austin and Berlin factories. For our energy business, we improved margins and gross profit, driven by cost reductions and deal economics, particularly with Megapack. As a reminder, storage volumes are typically volatile sequentially based on the types of projects and their specific revenue recognition milestones. As we look forward to the rest of the year, I want to reiterate Elon's comments on Q3 volumes, driven by planned downtimes for factory upgrades. These upgrades will also carry some amount of factory idle cost, however, we are working to minimize as much as possible. It's also important to keep in mind the uncertainty in the macro environment, which can impact our execution positively or negatively in the near term. Regardless, we continue to remain dynamic with a focus on fundamental efficiency and a long-term outlook. Congratulations again to everybody on a great quarter.
Thank you very much, Zach. And let's go to investor questions. The first question on licensing FSD we've already answered, so let's go to the second one. The second question is, what is the status of 4680 cells? How far are you from the specs you laid out on Battery Day? When do you expect to achieve what you laid out on Battery Day?
Yeah, first I'll just start with a little bit of a production update. So in Texas, 4680 cell production increased 80% Q2 over Q1, and the team surpassed 10 million production cells produced here in Texas. So congrats to the team for that. Their focus on yield reduced our scrap bill by 40% quarter over quarter, and that resulted in a 25% reduction in cell COGS. Here in Texas, we're preparing to launch our Cybertruck cell, which is 10% higher energy density than current production. That was accomplished through process and mechanical design optimization. As we scale Cyber cell production through the end of the year and early next, we should be in a comfortable place on cost per cell. Against our battery energy density targets, the Cyber cell is at our expectations on a like-for-like electrochemistry basis. We're yet to integrate silicon or in-house cathode production, both reviewed on Battery Day, which do bring significant further energy density and cost improvements, but that is a topic for another day. Lastly, it is important to remember that most of what we focused on at Battery Day was the Tesla-engineered 4680 production system and the improvements we strove to achieve on equipment, factory density, capital cost, and utility cost reduction, all of which we are realizing in our Texas scale-up to date.
Thank you very much. The next question is, can you talk more to the upcoming Tesla energy products and how your thinking has evolved on the revenue model? Given Tesla's AI capabilities, how do you see the long-term mix between hardware margin and recurring software margin from AutoBidder as this segment accelerates?
We can't comment on future product roadmap, but I can provide a quick energy Q2 update. Megapack continues to show strong demand globally, with Lathrop ramping successfully to meet our contracted projects in 2023. As stated last quarter, Megapack margins are in a reasonable place in line with our target vehicle target margins. The second final assembly line at Lathrop is progressing on schedule, eventually doubling Lathrop capacity ahead of our full factory ramp in 2024. We have several exciting large projects in construction or nearing completion, including the KES project in Hawaii, the Riverina project in Australia, several projects in California, and one here at Gigafactory Texas that I toured today, actually. We want to thank our customers, utilities, and grid operators for trusting us with these projects. On the AutoBidder question, we continue to grow AutoBidder contracts in wholesale markets like Australia, Texas, UK, and California with over 6 gigawatt hours under Tesla's dispatch next year. In the UK, our project performed best in the industry in Q2. AutoBidder does have software margins and is an enabler for hardware sales, but it's a relatively small contributor to revenues given how much deployment growth on the Megapack hardware side is occurring. It's important to remember that these large capital projects have lifetimes of 20 years, so recurring revenues on an annualized basis relative to upfront CapEx are small. On the residential side, we have some fun things happening. We recently surpassed 500,000 Powerwalls installed. Just this week, we were launching Charge on Solar, which allows Tesla Powerwall and vehicle customers to charge their vehicles using their excess solar and drive only on the sunshine that hits their roof. Yesterday, we began paying customers in Texas for participating in our virtual power plant to provide grid support to ERCOT. We expect these credits to lower our median customer's annual bill by a third and to increase these credits over time as ERCOT expands market access. And today, we are expanding Tesla Electric enrollment to new Model 3 owners in Texas, followed by all Texas vehicle customers over the rest of the quarter. Unfortunately, and somewhat similar to Tesla Insurance, bringing Tesla Electric and VPP capabilities to our customers requires working through a fractured regulatory environment on a jurisdiction-by-jurisdiction basis. In the long run, the value of residential energy software and hardware will be driven by the level of market access that utilities, market operators, and regulators permit. Where Powerwall is eligible to provide the full stack of energy services, like peaker capacity and system buffering, such as in Australia, we can more than double the value of ownership relative to a typical system today.
Thank you very much. The next question is, could you quantify the benefits to COGS per unit from the IRA battery manufacturing incentives? And secondly, battery raw material declines year to date.
All right, I can take that. On the first part of the question for IRA manufacturing incentives, we provided previous guidance that we expect these to be for the course of this year in the range of $150 million to $250 million per quarter. We are staying within that boundary as we guided previously, so that was the case in Q2 as well. I will note, I think we've mentioned this before, that this includes a 50-50 sharing of credits for qualified cells from our long-term battery partner, Panasonic. On the commodity side, we are continuing to see improvements there, as we've discussed previously. Lithium is the most notable improvement so far, I think I commented on this on the last call, because typically we see this coming about a quarter before it actually is realized in our financials. And also, just as a reminder, we're not fully exposed to the price of lithium. Our supply chain team has done a terrific job in partnership with a bunch of other companies to put in place some long-term agreements here, but we do have some exposure that moves up and down. We're also seeing benefits in aluminum and steel, which I think is great. Not as large as the lithium impacts, but they contribute nonetheless. So if we add up the total impact of this in Q2 relative to prior quarter, it's about the same size and magnitude as the IRA benefits that we also received. Just to put this in context, as you look at COGS per unit sequentially from Q1 to Q2, I think there's two things to keep in mind there. The first is that our SX mix for deliveries increased quite a bit from Q1 to Q2. So as you think about fundamental cost reductions, it's important to adjust for that. And then secondly, as we continue to work on reducing our Austin and Berlin costs, which we did quite a bit of that from Q1 to Q2, these factories are still slightly above Model Y production costs elsewhere. And in the quarter, our mix of Austin and Berlin related builds increased. And so that's something to consider as you model out the impact from Q1 to Q2 in terms of COGS per unit. I do want to ask Karin if there's anything else on the commodity side or just more generally you want to add here.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Zach, we've naturally been a little bit hedged from the lithium position because of the long-term contracts we have in place. But we have seen reduction in pricing across the board for all commodities that specifically go into batteries, such as nickel, cobalt, and graphite. And the reductions in pricing translate into thousands of dollars when you look at it from a per vehicle impact. We're taking advantage to extend some of those fixed price contracts through the end of the decade. So it's a playbook that we'll continue to kind of go back to as we look to the future.
Thank you. The next question on FSD. Have you considered allowing FSD transferability as a lever to allow existing customers to upgrade to a new Tesla instead of being locked into an existing car due to the price of FSD?
Yeah, this is a question we get asked a lot. So we're excited to announce that for Q3, we will be allowing transfer of FSD. This is a one-time amnesty. So it needs to be you need to take advantage of it in Q3, but or at least place the order in Q3 within reasonable delivery timeframes. I hope this makes people happy. But we're not going to do it. This is a one-time thing.
You get this much notice.
Right. The next question: When will you give more information about the Cybertruck orders, estimated delivery schedules, pricing, and specifications?
Demand is so far off the hook you can't even see the hook. So that's really not an issue. But I do want to emphasize that the Cybertruck has a lot of new technology in it, like a lot. It doesn't look like any other vehicle because it is not like any other vehicle. And the production ramp will move as fast as the slowest and least lucky element of the entire supply chain and internal production. So I wouldn't expect I hope it's smooth. We're certainly better at production ramps than we've got a lot of experience with production ramps. But first order approximation is there's like 10,000 unique parts and processes in the Cybertruck, and if any one of it'll go as fast as the least lucky, least well executed element of the 10,000. So always very difficult to predict the ramp initially, but I think we'll be making them in high volume next year, and we will be delivering the car this year.
Thank you. The next question is, critics of Giga casting contended that process makes vehicles harder and more costly to repair, essentially pushing costs onto the customer. Can you share some details about the initial repair experience with Giga cast vehicles?
That must be why everyone's copying us.
Yeah, thanks, Elon. This is Lars. And Martin, that's like simply not true. There's a misconception that traditional bodies are easy to repair, but they're made of multiple materials and multiple joining methods. Spot welds and rivets have to be drilled out. Panels and structural adhesive have to be chiseled out. Dried adhesive has to be removed. Stampings cut, blah, blah, blah.
It's a crazy patchwork quilt.
Yeah, and so putting that back together means time and money. Using an example of replacing a rear cast rail on a Model Y, to do that versus like what we replaced it with from the Model 3, it's 10 times cheaper and 3 times faster to do it with the cast rail. My design team works with our collision repair team since we're closed loop on this with insurance, and we design specific parts that make it easier and faster to repair. And we have an incentive to do that because we have our own insurance and our own body shops. We expect that we'll continue to do this, and collision repair will continue to become cheaper and faster over time. And we already make this available to all body shops through our Tesla-approved body shop training.
Yeah, closing the loop on collision repair, factoring that into design is a big deal.
It's crucial. I don't think anyone else can do it with the ecosystem that we have. So
yeah, and we are actually able to change the details of the casting with inserts, and we actually do that all the time. So because the inserts actually wear out and need to be replaced anyway, so we can actually make design changes to the inserts and tweak the castings to. But the casting, basically a cast rear body or front body is lighter, cheaper, better for noise, vibration, harshness, much easier to manufacture, and it's better in every way. And that's why so many other car companies are copying us. It's
probably
they certainly put out a lot of press releases about it. I think it's basically going to be how all cars are made in the future.
Thank you. Next question. How many Optimus bots have been made, and when will they be able to start performing useful tasks?
10 million. Yeah, I think we're around 5 or 6 bots. We're 10, I guess. Yeah, it depends on how many are working in what phase, but it's sort of. There's more every month. There's a lot of interesting things about the Optimus bot. We found that there are actually no suppliers that can produce the actuators. There are no off-the-shelf actuators that work well for a humanoid robot at any price.
Certainly not compelling humanoid robot.
Yes, not a humanoid robot that can do stuff that the things that a human could do. So we've actually had to design our own actuators that integrate the motor, the power electronics, the controller, the sensors, and really every one of them is a custom design. And then of course we'll be using the same inference hardware as the car. But we are in designing these actuators, designing them for volume production. So they're not just lighter, tighter, more capable than any other actuators that we're aware of that exist in the world. But it's also actually manufacturable. So we should be able to make them in volume. The first Optimus that will have all of the Tesla designed actuators, sort of production candidate actuators, integrated and working should be around November-ish. And then we'll start ramping up after that. In terms of when we'll be able to do some useful things, we'll first be trying this out in our own factories and just proving out its utility. But I think we'll be able to have it do something useful in our factories sometime next year. I would be, I'm pretty confident of that. And it's going well. I should say another cool thing about Optimus is that there's just in the U.S. alone there are 2 million amputees, and I was just talking to the Neuralink team, and by combining a Neuralink implant and a robotic arm or leg for someone that has had their arm or leg, or all arms and legs amputated, we believe we can give you basically a cyborg body that is incredibly capable. $6 million man in real life. It won't cost $6 million. $60,000 man. It sounds impressive, but it'll actually, so that actually could be a really, I think would be incredible to, potentially help millions of people around the world, and give them, a robot arm or leg that is as good, maybe long term better than a biological one.
Thank you. The next question is, how has the order intake trended relatively to production levels during Q2, and how has it trended in the quarter-to-date period? Conceptually, how does Tesla decide when is it appropriate to reduce prices or add other sales incentives to increase demand?
Yeah, I guess demand is roughly tracked production, which is what we aim for. We look at something that we have that really I think no other car maker has, is that we have real-time demand and real-time production. 7 days a week, I get an email, auto-generated email that shows output from all factories and orders globally. So it's like a real-time finger on the pulse of Earth, basically. And we adjust course according to what the mood of the public is. But buying a new car is a big decision for the vast majority of people. So anytime there's economic uncertainty, people generally pause on new car buying, at least to see what happens. And then obviously another challenge is the interest rate environment. As interest rates rise, the affordability of anything bought with debt decreases. So effectively increasing the price of the car. So when interest rates rise dramatically, we actually have to reduce the price of the car because the interest payments increase the price of the car. And this is at least up until recently, it was I believe the sharpest interest rate rise in history. So we had to do something about that. And if somebody's got a crystal ball for the global economy, I really appreciate it if I could borrow that crystal ball.
DM us.
Yeah, exactly. DM me on Twitter. It should be a note on Twitter. One day it seems like the world economy is falling apart, and the next day everything's fine. I don't know what the hell's going on. To be totally frank, I wish I did. That's why I say I always on Twitter I posted just really advising, because I care a lot about the sort of the small shareholders, especially ones that have stuck with us through thick and thin. I love you guys, and we can't control these macro shocks, or the manic depressive nature of the stock market. So that's why I recommend against margin loans in times that are turbulent. If times are not that turbulent, actually a margin loan can be a smart move within reason. But we're in, I would call it, turbulent times. I have very high confidence in the long-term value of Tesla. I see it see a path to a 10x, or maybe not these days, but they'll call it a 5x increase in the value of the company, maybe a 10x. But where things go along the way, the trials and tribulations and the mood of the markets, one cannot predict. And so, the old adage of buy and hold is right. for investment advice, I say, like, identify a company whose products you love. See if they, does it seem like they'll continue to make good products or great products? Buy that stock and hold it. That's it. You will win. The reason companies exist is to make goods and services, ideally great goods and services. They don't exist for any other reason. They shouldn't. So that's why you should buy stock of a company that makes great products and has a great future pipeline. It's common sense, actually. And then generally, if you provided you're confident about what that company's products or services are, when the market panics, buy, and when the market is, overly exuberant, you can sell. I'm not recommending you sell Tesla, but buy low, sell high. Warren Buffett actually, I think, has a saying. I'm paraphrasing him, but a publicly traded company is like, it's like imagine you're living in your house and some crazy manic depressive guy comes and stands at outside your house and yells property prices at you. So it's a different price every day. But the house is still the same house. So this is a stock market. You credit that to Warren Buffett.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. With the emphasis of price cuts to drive volume growth eating into automotive gross margin, can investors expect to see automotive gross margin stabilize or even rise due to efficiencies outpacing the cuts? And if so, when?
Oh, man.
Read the paper.
Where's that crystal ball again? If I may, it's like, look, the short-term variances in gross margin and profitability really are minor relative to the long-term picture. Autonomy will make all of these numbers look silly. I'd recommend looking at ARK Invest. I think their analysis is very good. It's the best, and generally, FinTwit or like the finance, the smart finance people on Twitter follow their accounts. They're great. That's that's in my opinion where you'll get the best info. I strongly believe Tesla is an epic long-term investment, and don't sweat it when things go up and down. In fact, if the market panics, buy. If the market's a little too exuberant, sell at the time. But just generally, like I feel confident. We will deliver over the long term, but can't control short term. So, and the autonomy is really where it's at. I mean, Zach, what do you?
I fully agree with you. I think the only thing in the short term that matters is what I said in my opening remarks, which is, are we generating enough money to continue to invest? And, the portfolio of products and technologies that the technical teams are investing in right now, this is intense. It's intense in terms of investment. It's intense in terms of potential.
Frankly, I think it's ridiculous that we have positive free cash flow in a capital-intensive business while investing massive amounts of money in new technology. That is super hard.
And vertical integration. It's not even just like new products, but also.
Yeah, we actually make our shit. Yeah. We don't.
And so
that's others, but. Sorry, in person, boarding school.
And so, at least from my perspective, what matters is continuing to generate the cash to invest. That means continuing to be hyper-focused on near-term cost reduction, because everything we do in near-term cost reduction provides capital to reinvest. Hyper-focused on working capital management, of which we've made quite a bit of progress there on the raw materials and WIP side of that. We've been very focused on accounts receivables as well to ensure that we can continue to reinvest the cash. that this is what we're focused on.
Yeah.
And, so there's, a set of this that we control. We have a pipeline of cost reductions. We are getting tailwinds in the commodity space right now, as Karn mentioned. That's helpful. Variability around average selling prices, goes back to Elon's point. We don't control interest rates. We don't control macro consumer sentiment. But we have an obligation to be responsive to that, to ensure that we're matching supply and demand and keeping things balanced. And so this is how we're managing the next handful of quarters. Soon enough, these quarters will be behind us. They won't be part of the present value of future cash flows of the business. And so we want to make sure we keep that view and make sure that the long term of the business is exactly the way that we want it to be.
Well said. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And now let's go to analyst questions. The first question comes from Dan Levi from Barclays. Dan, feel free to unmute yourself.
Great. Good evening. Thank you. Wanted to start first with a question about your efforts in AI and Dojo. It's pretty clear. It sounds like you're accelerating your focus. Can you maybe provide us with a sense of what the process is of refining the product? Is it more machines? And maybe you could give us a sense of, when the payout when you start to see the payout and what the resource outlay is. What should we expect on the OpEx front as a result of this?
Sorry, are you saying how much are we going to spend on Dojo, or?
Yeah,
R&D of Dojo.
Yes.
Well, we're not going to be open loop on our Dojo expenditures, so, but I mean, I think we will be spending, certainly north of $1 billion over the next year on through the end of next year. It's well over $1 billion in Dojo. So I mean, we've got a truly staggering amount of video data to do training on. And this is another thing. I don't like in order to copy us, you'd also need to spend billions of dollars on training compute. I mean, it's like, and it's also hard to, you need the data and you need the training compute. It's like, think of all the things needed to actually achieve this at scale for a generalized solution for autonomy. This is one of the hardest problems ever. You see a lot of AI companies doing, LLMs and whatnot. And I'm saying, if they're so great, why can't they make a self-great driving car? Because it's harder. That's why. But I do think I think there's some, great AI companies out there. But just fundamentally, the staggering amount of data we've got to process has got to be processed somehow. And custom silicon is the best way to do that. So that's what Dojo is designed to do is optimize for video training. It's not optimized for LLMs. It's optimized for video training. With video training, you have a much higher ratio of compute to memory bandwidth. Whereas LLMs tend to be memory bandwidth choked. So that's it. I mean, but like I said, we're using a lot of NVIDIA hardware, and we continue to we'll actually take the NVIDIA hardware as fast as NVIDIA will deliver it to us. Tremendous respect for Jensen and NVIDIA. They've done an incredible job. And frankly, I don't know if they could deliver us enough GPUs, we might not need Dojo, but they can't. So they got so many customers. They've been kind enough to nonetheless prioritize some of our GPU orders. The sheer magnitude of video training, because like I said, we're not trying to just get as good as human. We want to get to 10 times better than human, maybe 100 times better than human. Right now, I believe there's something on the order of 1 million automotive deaths per year, and then if you say permanent serious injuries, I think it's probably closer to 10 million per year. So it matters if you're you're twice as good as human, 10 times, like 10 times better than human would still mean 100,000 deaths, and a million severe permanent injuries. So it's like, okay, well, we'd rather be 100 times better. So there's really, it's a march of nines, and we want to achieve as perfect safety as possible. It's vast, truly mind-boggling amounts of video and computer needed for that. So, and then I do think there's other applications for Dojo, but we just desperately need it for video training.
Great.
Just to add to what Elon mentioned, so the numbers that he mentioned are between R&D spend and capital spend,
Yeah.
and this is moving quickly, and so we provide a 3-year outlook on our capital expense. We are considering these expenses in that outlook, and as that moves up and down, we'll continue to update our guidance in the queue.
Yeah, I want to say the fundamental rate limiter on the progress of full self-driving is training. That's if we had more training compute, we would get it done faster. So that's it.
And it's just difficult to predict how quickly we can execute on it.
Great, thank you. Just as a follow-up, I recognize there's some incredible macro uncertainty right now, but you're sticking with your near-term, your volume target of 50% CAGR. As we just think about sort of in the year ahead, Cybertruck is going to be some contribution. There's going to be some help from further EV penetration growth, but to what extent are you willing to sacrifice on pricing to keep that 50% volume CAGR intact? Or are you thinking differently about margins versus your prior commentary of willing to sacrifice on margins to get more share?
It's not about getting more share. It's just that you can think of every car that we sell or produce that has a full autonomy capability as actually something that in the future may be worth as much as 5 times what it is today. Because average passenger vehicle is doing like maybe 10 hours of driving a week. If let's say it's 1.5 hours a day on average, that's 10 hours a week, ish. If you've got an autonomous, if that vehicle is able to operate autonomously and be used in some either dedicated autonomous or partially autonomous, like Airbnb, maybe sometimes you allow your car to be used by others. Sometimes you want to use it exclusively, just like Airbnb, doing Airbnb with a room in your house. That the value is just tremendous. So I think it would be. I think it does make sense to sacrifice margins in favor of making more vehicles, because we think in the not too distant future they will have a dramatic valuation increase. I think the Tesla fleet value increase at the point at which we can upload full self-driving and it's approved by regulators will be the single biggest step change in asset value maybe in history.
Thank you. Let's go to the next analyst. The question comes from Emmanuel Rosner from Deutsche Bank.
Thank you very much. 2 questions from me as well. First, following up on the autonomy. So, before you start launching these dedicated robotaxi vehicles on existing vehicles, you're improving FSD, incrementally. What is your latest targeted timing to essentially release a non-beta version or an eyes-off version that would trigger much higher take rates? And would Tesla benefit from lowering the price of FSD?
Well, obviously, as people have sort of made fun of me, and perhaps quite fairly have made fun of me, my predictions about achieving full self-driving have been optimistic in the past. The reason they've been optimistic is what it tends to look like is we'll make rapid progress with a new version of FSD, but then it will curve over logarithmically. So at first, like a logarithmic curve looks like just sort of fairly straight upward line, diagonally up. And so if you extrapolate that, then you have a great thing. But then, because it's actually logarithmic, it curves over, and then there've been a series of stacked logarithmic curves. Now, yeah, I know I'm the boy who cried FSD, but I think we'll be better than human by the end of this year. That's not to say we're approved by regulators, and I'm saying that would be in the U.S. because we got to focus on one market first. But I think we'll be better than human by the end of this year. I've been wrong in the past. I may be wrong this time. And the price of FSD. So the weird thing is the price of FSD is actually very low. It's not high. When you go back to what I was saying earlier, the value of the car increases dramatically if it is actually autonomous. $15,000 is actually a low price, not a high price. Now we will offer, I think we do sort of offer FSD as a sort of monthly subscription, although like most people don't know that. So I'd recommend like maybe trying it out as a monthly subscription, so you don't have to go with the $15,000 thing. But I think, obviously if the car is worth several times its original price, $15,000 is actually a low price for FSD.
Thank you. And the next question comes from William Stein from Truist. William, go ahead and unmute.
Great. Thank you very much for taking my question. I'd like to ask about to stick on this AI topic. We read, with great interest the developments in Dojo today, and you've spoken about FSD. But you've also, Elon, you've started this X.AI company, and for investors that think that there might be quite a bit of value in the AI features and products of Tesla, it might be concerning to see you, pursuing another endeavor where AI is the focus. So can you talk about how X.AI might overlap, might perhaps compete with Tesla, or in other ways, perhaps it enhances the value of what Tesla does? Thanks very much.
Yeah, I think it will actually enhance the value of Tesla. There really were just some of the world's best AI engineers and scientists that were willing to join a startup, but they were not willing to join a large, sort of relatively established company like Tesla. So I was like, that's actually how it got started. I was interviewing a few people, and they're like, "No, we want to do a startup." I was like, and that's all. I couldn't convince them to join Tesla. So I was like, okay, well, better it's a startup that I run than they go work somewhere else. That's kind of the genesis of XAI. And XAI is focused on sort of AGI. So it's, but I'd like to say, I think there will be some value that XAI brings to Tesla. Also for some of the best, for the very best people in the world, they really just want to work on interesting problems. So if you take, say, our material science group, really what convinced Charlie Kuhlman to leave Apple, we were very happy and well compensated, and built what we think is the best material science group in the world, was that he got to work at both Tesla and SpaceX. He wasn't willing to leave Apple if it was just Tesla, but he was willing to do it if it was Tesla and SpaceX. So sometimes you get the best talent in the world. That's the kind of thing you need to do, and that actually has been very beneficial to Tesla. So.
If I can squeeze one more mundane question in, I wonder if you think you can hit the 1.8 million unit number with current pricing, or do you anticipate needing to continue to lower prices? Because it seems like they've stabilized. The trends have stabilized in the last maybe month and a half. Should we expect a sort of continued decreases or more stabilization for the rest of the year?
Sure. We have a really sort of restarted the referral program, which I think will be quite effective. But as Zach was saying earlier, we don't control the macroeconomic conditions. So if interest rates continue to rise, that reduces the affordability of cars. And for a lot of people, they're really trying to balance, just barely breaking even every month. In fact, if you look at the rise in credit card debt, they are in fact not breaking even every month. Like credit card debt is looking kind of scary. So we just don't control macro conditions. If macro conditions are stable, I think prices will be stable, and if they're not stable, then we would have to lower prices. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go to Colin Rush from Oppenheimer.
Thanks so much, guys. As you're building out Dojo and implementing what surely is going to be a highly complex set of software, can you speak to the maturity of the operating system and how much outsourced software you're expecting to use in that system?
This is a custom software stack, but it is designed such that you can run at a high level PyTorch and JAX. But then we have to customize it to actually run on a custom silicon. So the software stack is a combination of open source software and then Tesla software all the way to the bare silicon, which is the case for the inference computer in the car.
Okay, thanks so much. That's super helpful. And then can you speak to how you're managing some of the geopolitical risks relative to your capacity expansion? Obviously, as you guys continue to grow at this rate, you're going to be putting some folks out of business, and there's going to be some impacts around regional economies. So just want to understand how you're thinking about that in terms of some of your CapEx plans and how you're managing some of those relationships with different countries and regions.
Well, this is a period of unusual geopolitical risk. So I think the best we can do is, have factories in many parts of the world, such that if things get difficult in one part of the world, we can still keep things going in the rest of the world.
Thank you. The next question comes from Mark Delaney from Goldman Sachs.
Thank you very much for taking the question. Tesla has been making progress reducing cost and did so again last quarter. Can you give an update on when you think automotive COGS per vehicle could be under the historical $36,000 per vehicle level, and what are the key puts and takes to get there?
I think I was asked this in the past. This is very difficult to forecast. There's a series of costs that we manage. There's a series of costs in which we don't control. And so, particularly on the commodity side, where labor costs go, et cetera, it's just hard to say.
Yeah, we saw very strong inflationary pressures for a while last year, and now which obviously makes it very difficult to reduce COGS. And now we're seeing what seem to be deflationary pressures. Certainly, deflationary. If deflation is a pressure, but we're seeing commodity prices dropping as was mentioned. As Karin mentioned a moment ago, and I think. What do you think? Basically, the trends seem to be deflationary at the commodity level.
Definitely, there's that, and then there's also the unit economics improve as volumes grow. That's the other thing we're seeing. as we're becoming a bigger and bigger part of a lot of suppliers, economies of scale come into play. There's equipment depreciation that comes into play, equipment that was commissioned 5 to 7 years ago that used to be a part of the piece price. That's completely amortized. So we'll see situations where piece price comes down because that equipment contribution has gone away. And then just we continue to have this mentality of continuous improvement in terms of labor, reducing labor, improving automation, and just continue to get better at what we do. So we have seen, I think every quarter we have seen an improvement. Of course, the commodities spiked up and down, but just in general, the trend is towards being more efficient.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, but lithium prices went absolutely insane there for a while.
Yeah, and they're recovering now.
Cobalt's like a third of what it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're still early in the ramps. Well, not early in the ramp, but early in the cost down curve of Austin and Berlin.
Yeah.
And so it takes time to work the cost out. At first, it's focused on ramp. Ramp brings cost down.
Ramp and quality, and then ramp and quality cost.
Yeah, and then once that stabilizes, we can divert bandwidth to cost reduction. And so Austin and Berlin saw quite a decent amount of cost reduction on a fundamental basis from Q1 to Q2. We'll continue to do that work. That will be helpful. And so we're just going to keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, packaging is a big element to that.
Yeah, logistics too.
Logistics is normalizing, which is great.
Q-bot utilization, something that the team has been very focused on. So every bit of it.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Logistics is underappreciated. The old saying goes like, battles are won with tactics, wars are won with logistics.
Yeah, and we made tremendous improvements in cost in all fronts. On expedite costs, we have down to pre-pandemic expedite cost levels now, and our goal is to go further down.
So when we look at our progress from Q1 to Q2 on cost, the way that we look at internally, normalized for the impacts of mix shift with Austin and Berlin being a higher percentage of our mix, normalized for SNX being a higher percentage of our mix in Q2 versus Q1. The sequential cost reduction, it might be the largest we've had in a while. So I think it's great work on behalf of the Tesla team, and we just got to keep it up.
Yeah, it's a game of pennies. It's like Game of Thrones with pennies.
Mark, do you have a follow-up question? I think you're muted.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much for all the details on that. Maybe you could put a finer point on the downtime impact that you spoke about in your prepared comments, in terms of production impact, and then also to what extent there's a margin impact from those factory upgrades that you're planning this quarter. Thank you.
Yeah, the downtime. We don't know exactly the number of cars impacted because, kind of the way that we go into downtime windows for upgrades is, we set aside a period of time, but then the team is challenged to go as quickly as possible so that we can get the factories up and running again and minimize that. So it's not profound reduction, hopefully it's quite small.
I think we're getting too much into the weeds here. I mean, we're asking for a level of precision that is not possible to answer. So let's move on.
Yeah, I think this is unfortunately all the time we have for today.
Okay.
So we'll speak to you all in the next 3 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that was quick. Quick ending.
There we go. Now I got the headphones.
There was some good info in there.
Oh, there we are. Looking better.
Yes. So I have to say that the three of us were shocked when we heard that FSD question come out and the answer that we didn't think was going to be touched with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
I just needed a longer pole, you guys.
It's good for some people. Oh, what did you guys want? He wanted a 7-foot pole for the frunk. It's good for some people. Like if you're going to buy a car in the next 2 months and you already have FSD paid off, then hey, it's good for you. Everybody else, it's like, damn, a little heads up, not be nice, buddy.
I wonder if that will be quite a spike in orders, just because of that statement.
I know a lot of folks who have like older Model S's, X's, and 3s that they say that they like some of the new stuff, but it's not enough compelling if they had to buy FSD for 15 grand on top of rebuying the car.
Especially the people who paid $6,000 with full confidence that it was going to be something super valuable.
Only going up.
And promptly. Well, it has only gone up unless you're trading it in.
Well, it did go down for a little while, like a year.
Oh, yeah,
then
that's
it went back
true. I'm excited. I'm super excited. The aftermarket, not so excited. But
what are they looking at?
Down like $12.
Damn.
But it's the aftermarket. Unless you trade on the aftermarket, it's irrelevant to you. You can't move your shares until tomorrow anyway. And I think an 11-cent beat is adequate to at least hold ground, if not climb. Yeah. And I am getting some comments pointing out that Brian was correct. I did my early Q3 production estimate because some of the bigger channels like to do that, and their numbers are stupid, genuinely bonkers. And then as the quarter goes on, they get more and more realistic. And I said, nope, here's my numbers. It's not going to be a record because they're going to take it down for retooling, and they are.
Multiple factories down for retooling.
Yeah, 2.
Fremont and Shanghai, yeah.
Yeah. All the Model 3s, baby. And the people saying,
they did do Texas because they said, do you guys want to work on Cybertruck or do you want unpaid layoff?
Well, yeah, and that's because they closed the third shift on Model Y line, but they're also starting to ramp lines 2 and 3. Some people were peeled off to work on that. Model Y did have like 3 days of downtime to get the update that Berlin got 6 months earlier. So the Model Y line will be slightly up, but and the Cybertruck line can start to ramp, but Fremont and Shanghai are going to be down because of retooling. And to the people who say that Highland isn't real, I say, maybe unsubscribe from those people. If that's what they're genuinely saying, there's like some disconnect there that should concern you.
I mean, it may not be everything we're hearing in the rumors, but it's definitely there, and it's definitely going to be something major.
Something major, yeah. Yeah, they're
at least for manufacturability, even if we don't get features.
Yeah. And this saying 11-cent beat and after hours down 12, that proves there's a lot of dumb money on Wall Street. Well, it's aftermarket, so I think it's on, I don't know, it might be, I don't know the names of any streets in Japan. Isn't that where the Nikkei index is?
Toyota's mad.
Yeah, I don't know the names of any.
These were good. The only people I can see that would be trying to get out would be people who don't understand what was just said and what was in the numbers. And
gamblers.
Gamblers.
Gamblers. So to me, the big thing I heard was the cost of everything that we're doing on the back end is getting better. Our logistics costs are down. Our supply line is back to pre-pandemic levels. Our minerals have gone down significantly. So we can.
Product is down.
What'd you say?
Cost of the finished product is down.
And that's the thing is we can drop the price, the customer's price, and still keep double-digit margins, which is, not something the competition is able to do. When the price cut on the Model 3 was announced, poor Chevy Bolt was like, wow, well, we're already losing a ton on each unit, and now it costs almost basically more than a Tesla. We're just going to kill it. We're just going to go smother it in its cot.
My sister she went on a trip and she reserved an electric car, and the lady at the counter was like, hey, you know how to drive a Tesla? And then she said, Chevy Bolt. and they were so disappointed. They were looking forward to the Tesla, and they got the Chevy Bolt, and started out with the lack of a frunk. They had enough luggage that they were going to use the frunk and the trunk, and it only went down from there.
And then they had to charge it.
And then they
exactly. The only charger was on the wrong side of town because there was a supercharger in between where they were going in the airport.
Do you know how long it takes to charge an e-Hummer? Real quick, do you know how long it takes to charge the e-Hummer, even on 220?
2 weeks.
Long time.
2 weeks.
It's like between hours on 220.
It's overnight may not cut it. I hope you're a heavy sleeper.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was like 14 hours.
Kind of interesting was kind of interesting was the talk about interest rates and how
Yes.
it affects Tesla sales, and them having to make adjustments based on something that they really don't control. The Fed controls it. It's something that the administration has said we're going to fight inflation, and that's why these rates have gone up. And any business, especially one that sells a expensive product, has to work that into their plans, that we have to lower prices because people are spending a lot more money on monthly payments based on higher interest rates.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then the fact that they're in talks on licensing FSD to another automaker, that's exciting.
I am shocked that they would disclose that.
Yeah.
But like we were saying in between shows and maybe before the first show, that's not surprising. I would think you would have to be crazy. First of all, the industry's not that big. Everybody knows
and they like to buy stuff and bolt it in.
Yeah. And if those conversations are happening, if nothing's in writing, that wouldn't surprise me. But I didn't
expect them to say before they said, "Hey, Ford is buying from us." I did not expect them to say, "We're talking." Well, that was. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that whoever it is will be able to enroll their customers in the robotaxi?
Why not? Why not? Sure. Because.
And will they pay $15,000 or $20,000 for theirs?
So that's the question: is Tesla going to sell it to GM for $12,000 and let them market to $15,000 to keep it equal? I don't know. Or does they just get the hardware and Tesla keeps every penny because, hey man, do you want to go out and develop it yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, we could charge your customer $20, or you could let us direct charge them for $15.
Mm-hmm.
Our car does it for free. You'll keep in the lane and not hit the other cars, and for $200 a month, they'll do the whole kit. What do you want to do?
But anybody that does agree to it would have to redesign their cars, right? They would have to follow the Tesla standards when it comes to cameras and computers and whatever else that's involved to make FSD work. It would be might be a lot more expensive for their cars in the first place because they're not going to the level of what Tesla does to build a car that's integrated, that is able to share these resources and make the software work very well with hardware, because the hardware was designed with the software in mind.
Maybe it's Ford, because remember Farley was just talking about how many different OSs and components and vendors they had to work with, as well as don't look at the hardware savings they're going to have by going with FSD. Instead of needing LiDAR and radar, and you can just put plastic covers. You don't have to redesign your car. Plastic covers over all that crap. Little windows for the cameras, and that's it. You only need 8 cameras.
So
one inside, 2 in the front.
So Spence wanted to know: doesn't Tesla produce their own chip for FSD? They design it. Well, they design it, but they don't
make
fabricate
it. No, Samsung makes it, but they designed it for Samsung to build.
Yeah, because a chip fab is a
super expensive.
Right. It's not an art. It's not a science. It's whatever the next order of magnitude is up from there. So I think it'll be very easy
buying it.
Yeah, I think it'll be very easy for other manufacturers to incorporate the hardware for FSD, because the cameras don't have to be in a precision location as long as they're in the fenders, the window. Holes for the B pillar, okay, that might need to be something that's figured out, but that's a pretty easy one. And then just have, hardware 4 in there. It's expensive, but the cameras are cheap, but hardware 4 is not. So it would be interesting to see how that. I mean, it can be done. Yeah, I just don't know how much they're going to want to do that before it's complete. But hey.
Well, if Elon
get them lined up ahead of time
about it being, and I'm glad he pointed that out. But if he's right this time about it being this year, then that's enough lead time for them to actually integrate it.
The boy who cried FSD. Quality.
Perfect.
That was quality. This is what I come here for.
That's it to a T. We're tired of hearing it. Like it becomes, it falls on deaf ears because we're just going, He said it before, and he said it before, and he said it before, and it just keeps going on. Like,
well, you know what they
it's not even it's not even just that he says it. He says it with no attribution. So like we have no like if he said, oh yeah, we found a new method of doing perception. Okay, so now that's why we think it'll be better. Oh, it's just gonna be this year.
Well, you know what they always say: tell, don't show.
Yes.
I don't think that's
it. Show, don't tell. The other way around.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, darn it! Somebody should tell you. I forgot to break this out earlier. I've been carrying this around for like 3 weeks.
Just waiting for this opportunity.
Just waiting for the opportunity.
Oh man! So yeah, it was
great.
I thought it was great. In some cases, it was not surprising. We lost your audio, Brian.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're back. Okay, you're back.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had a stutter in the audio. So LJ Hughes is asking about Volvo and Tesla's charging software. And I know that Ford said they had API access. I think Volvo said something to that effect as well.
Well, we know Polestar came first, and then I'm quite confident I saw Volvo announced later. If
no,
it wasn't
Volvo was first. Volvo was first.
Volvo
Polestar was second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If it wasn't in the slide deck, it's because the list is already too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I thought, a great call. The other one, he did say that Tesla is going to start selling hooks in the merch store. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was saying that Tesla needs more hooks.
So much demand, you can't even see the hooks anymore, is what he said.
So they're going to, selling hooks. That'll be incoming. They'll be $9,000. It'll just be a little chrome hook. It's just a regular hook.
Or $199 a month on the rental fee.
I think the other thing we're seeing with the reduced cost of goods is there was no delivery wave. And he's been trying to unwind that for 3-4 years. And from looking at days of inventory, from looking at the numbers, even from looking at the drone footage and looking at even the deliveries at service centers, there is still a focus to prioritizing local deliveries at the end of a quarter, but there is no push. And that drives up costs. There are hourly workers who are not on salary, who are getting paid time and a half. There's all kinds of...
Or more in some jurisdictions.
Yeah. If you've ever worked in any kind of manufacturing, you know what expedite costs do to the bottom line.
Yeah.
And it's...
And they've toyed with this for some time. Like you said, it's been a long time that they've been fighting this thing to say, you know what, it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen at the end of the quarter because we're going to sell it in the next week and a half. What's it matter? But they keep kind of falling back on it. Every once in a while, you hear end of the quarter push. You hear everyone's getting involved. They just can't seem to completely let it go. But it's certainly better than what it was before.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Overall, boy, I know, Kacey, you were making a bunch of notes there. What do you want to cover?
He touched on the bot as far as, like you mentioned that they had to build all the hardware. They can't just buy it. And,
the fact that there's 10 built, I think, will come as a tremendous surprise to an awful lot of people who thought there were surely 100 already employed. And he was saying... When he was saying 10, he was saying 10, but really 6. I mean, depends what you're calling a finished bot, a working
because
bot.
They're pieces. They're pieces.
Yeah,
there's arm structures. There's leg structures.
Right.
There's torsos.
Assorted betas.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think what we're going to see with bots is a march of nines. March of nines where the first 9 was easy. The 90% was easy. Here we are in year 3. We look like we're at 99%. But baby, we got a long way to go.
Yeah, and then he mentioned parting the bot back out again, using it for prosthetics, with Neuralink.
Yeah, Iron Man.
Yeah, Iron Man. I think that concept is pretty cool. Obviously, they'll need to make sure that the metals are biocompatible, and then they'll need to get rid of the 8-pound limit that the bot has, because man, if you spent $60,000 on an arm and you couldn't lift up your FedEx package from Amazon.
Well, you can do 25 pounds per arm, keep you under the OSHA limit. Perfect.
Right. At least that.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, interesting call. Interesting call. Back and forth a little bit on it.
They answered a lot of questions
Again,
I didn't think they were going to touch.
Yeah, they did sway into those areas. I have to say that the profitability question came up over and over and over in different ways.
Yeah, they sure answered the same question 100 times, which is, I don't know how useful. I'm going to say not very useful, but hey.
They said that we got the fundamentals. We don't control the rest of the world. We're gonna make it work as best as we can. And then they asked it another way, and another way, and another way.
And the second or third last question was about the is it better to lower the price to keep the volume up, or is it better to keep the price the same and have a lower volume of products rolled out? And Elon, like he said twice before that I know of, is that we're going to keep producing the products, and if we have to lower the price, we're going to lower the price, because we believe that at the end of the day, when the economy gets back on all its feet, that we'll be in a much better position because we didn't stop our growth.
Right. Yeah. And we saw that happen with their competition. When they stopped ordering the chips, the chip maker said, okay, we don't need this old-ass machine anymore, kicked it out the door, started making the new chips that people were asking for their computers and laptops and personal devices and stuff. And then when the automaker said, "Oh shoot, we'd like those chips back," like we can't even make them anymore. They're so ancient. You have to get the new stuff, and you have to get the back of the line.
Yeah, and that's the thing about being the customer of choice is you do get the best pricing and the highest priority. When I was convinced that GM was for real with the Bolt and other coming products, and then they canceled the Bolt. They canceled I guess they didn't cancel the Hummer, but 29 over 6 months is not exactly what I'd call sales. Their suppliers look at that and go, gee, so they're still not serious about this. Back to the people who actually are.
Yeah. Right. You had only 2 automakers were able to, 1, keep the chip orders up, and 2, get them. Like you had Tesla was ordering the new stuff, and Toyota kept ordering the old stuff that they are used to because they're a very stodgy old company. But because they knew that based on their years of experience with the just-in-time, is that you don't just-in-time the things that you can't pick back up again if demand picks up. So they kept the chips and they let the iron go. And then it was...
Well, and the same thing happened when Ford stopped ordering blue ovals. It turns out nobody else wanted to buy them. So getting that supply back was difficult. I'm sure there were a number of companies in China that would have purchased some, but I don't know.
Showing up on tape recorders and saxophones. The blue oval.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh my gosh!
I have to go back and listen to some of it though, because I mean.
Oh, you think? Because that beginning was a little rough.
His speech pattern combined with whatever the heck they were doing routing that thing through Twitter. I noticed halfway through it got way better, as if somebody in the audio engineering booth said, "This is stupid," and fixed it.
Yeah, because that was everything they do is brilliant, except these calls. Are you using 2 tin cans in a string? Because I swear the fidelity would be better.
Exactly.
Those and. I want to applaud you both for getting the questions that we discussed in the pre-show. Boy, you guys got those really well. Proud of you, but not surprised. For those watching on my side, the Tesla Life crew. We've got Kacey and Mark. I had to see which way I was pointing because, yeah. And they do a weekly podcast. Sorry, Patrick can't be here. I'm sure he's kicking himself in paradise.
He'll be back next week.
Well, good for him, I guess. But this is an extravaganza, gents. Don't you know? Can he do earnings on Twitter Space? Yeah, I assume he was. We tried listening to that, and it was having the same problem.
Yeah,
right?
Everybody was reporting that there was an issue at the beginning of the audio stream.
Froze on Twitter. I switched right back to YouTube.
Yeah. So that was well executed.
We're lucky it came back. Anyways, after about 10 minutes of robot talk. It was a little bit dicey at the beginning.
It was really only probably 5. It was very short, but
it felt like an hour when I was sitting here. Like...
Yeah. Any guys in the chat, if there's any questions you have to ask, please do ask them. I did run another poll. I said, you saw the numbers, heard the calls. So buy, hold, sell, or I don't do polls. 4% said sell. 25% hold. 59% said buy. So that's a thing.
Interesting with Elon's comment during the call about earnings, about him talking about stock purchase in the first place, not going out on a limb in turbulent times because things can change dramatically. Tesla, he believes will bring back at one point he said 10x return and then dropped it to 5x. And it was like these statements are being thrown around. It was like, I don't know if I'd be saying that on a live call. It just doesn't.
This type of call, at least.
It doesn't seem. I thought Elon, over the past number of quarters, has been more media savvy. He's been quicker to cut off questions and not speculate. But he seemed to be doing a little more speculating today.
Yeah, I did notice that. You remember the quarter when he said that's a dumb question. Let's go to the the
retail questions. Let's go to Twitter.
Yeah. I tell you, these questions were worse. Some of them were worse. Hey, thanks for answering that question. You know what? I'd like to know the same thing. Is this it's an interrogation where they ask you the same questions to make sure the story doesn't change?
We figure you'll break at some point if we keep asking the same question.
Okay, we've been dumping them in the ocean. That's why I blew up the submersible.
Oh man!
Crying out loud.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I think we've got enough covered. We've gone on for 3.5 hours, which is excessive and unnecessary. And I do not appreciate you taking so much of my day. I will have my people send you an invoice.
All right, you do that.
Join button down below.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, I'll give you my address, but
send away, and you can send it as many times as you like to, just like the questions that were asked to Elon. Oh my goodness,
Peter has a good question.
We want to thank you, Brian, for participating with us today. It's been a wonderful collaboration.
I enjoyed it, obviously. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Let's do one last question. Peter wants to know, will the FSD deal next month boost sales for people who might hold off for the Highland release?
Yeah, because that would suck to go from one legacy to another.
but that might be their choice.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, there are a lot of people I know who are Tesla owners who are just holding on to their car because they paid for FSD, and by gum, they're not dropping down another 15,000, but they're not ready to get rid of it. Maybe this is the catalyst they needed. So we shall see.
Yeah. I think there will be some sort of boost.
I believe there will be a little boost as well. So, if anyone's watching this on the replay, I always ask at this point, and it's such a long broadcast, why? But thank you for doing so in any case. And thank you guys both. And I will obviously be harassing you in the comments on your podcast in the future. And you're welcome to harass me as well. I take it nicely, I suppose. And and thank you guys. And thanks to everyone out there for hanging out with us.
Yeah, we thank everyone for watching this show today. And Brian, appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll do something more in the future because it was such an enjoyable experience with you today.
All right. Works for me.
Thanks all. Have yourselves a good evening.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.